words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.
And welcome everybody to, oh man, I guess I can't do it over there.
It's 11.
Ugh. All right, well, we're gonna start over again. All right, welcome everybody to our Daily Gun Show. We come to you every night at midnight Eastern, and we talk about guns for about an hour. We're on episode 832, so we've been doing the show for a little while. Right now, it is sort of evolved into a panel discussion, and we have people that we've invited via email to join us tonight, and we're going to chat about the Second Amendment. Let's talk about who we've got in here already. We've got Angelina jumping in from California. Thanks for joining.
Hello, thanks for inviting me.
These guys don't even make a noise all day long. As soon as I start talking on this show, they make their noises.
They want to be famous.
Chloe jumping in from Texas. Thanks for jumping in.
Yeah, thanks for the invite.
And then we got Dead Horse jumping in from Utah.
Howdy, thanks for having me.
And we've got a bunch of people joining us live. Everything we do online is an attempt at the interactive nature of this new media. So we encourage people to be part of this conversation, either now, live, or in the future, if you're watching this someplace else. And if you are watching this in the future, the only way we know you're out there is if you leave some kind of comment or something. So feel free to do that on whatever platform it might be, like if it's Gun Channels, or if it's Gun Streamer, or if it's GunTube, or one of those other platforms that doesn't know your name or care about your guns. Let us know you're out there. Ghost had an interesting thing in the off-air earlier. He just jumped in from Arkansas. Thanks for joining.
Hey, thanks. You guys started a little early tonight.
Well, kind of 6 minutes late, which is kind of early lately. But you were talking off-air because I was giving you grief about doing that like romper room. Hey, I see so-and-so out there, and I see so-and-so, and I see so-and-so. And you're saying how the big platform that we broadcast this thing on, they don't necessarily put out that, what's that thing called? The alert or whatever. And people don't see it right away. So yeah, you're right. People probably don't join right off the bat. And if you jump right into content, they might be missing something. So this was an attempt to blab a little bit. But I'm also thinking that might be an interesting opportunity to post a quiz or something right at the front. Some sort of an opportunity to win something. So it encourages people to jump right in. Be ready for your show instead of waiting for the big platform that hates you to tell you about what's on front, what's on.
Yeah, that's an interesting concept of if you do like a giveaway the first 2 minutes of your show, but you have to be present to win.
Right.
Maybe people would do that.
Yeah. So that didn't happen tonight. Oh, suckers had to just join for no reason. No incentive. So we're going to talk about Second Amendment. It's Tuesday. I got my fancy new whiteboard. I was just showing everybody. I just changed out my computer, so we were talking about that yesterday. And I have access to this big giant whiteboard that I haven't had in a while. And so I've written June, July, August, then I wrote September on there, then October, September. These are all months that we follow on the calendar. November, December, and then I got January and February. That's how big the whiteboard is. In September, we got the Gun Rights Policy Conference. And in January, we got SHOT Show. How do we change the world?
Is everyone going to these things?
Well, I don't know, but I'm just putting those up there as kind of like waypoints. I mean, the Gun Rights Policy Conference is inherently kind of boring, and most people ignore it. But it is a thing that happens in September, and SHOT Show is the industry's get together. And my board just didn't have enough room to put what would have to be to March or April to get NRA in there. But so I just kind of have them up there as waypoints. I don't know if they're necessarily necessary or are only opportunities or anything. There's certainly opportunities that we might have to get together, and that's.
How many people know about the Gun Rights Policy Conference? I know I had never heard of it until you started talking about it. I never knew it existed or was even a thing.
I don't know if they intentionally don't promote it a lot, or if the nature of it is so boring that it doesn't lend itself to promotion. Nobody in their right mind is going. Nobody's going to profit off promoting it. So most places aren't gonna waste their, time doing it. But it might also be a factor that because they do strategy and because it's sort of a pro-gun thing, that maybe they don't, because they don't really want antis to show up. But I don't know. That's total. It's just
Is
assumption.
it just open for anyone to walk in, or do you got to be invited or get a ticket, or like how do you get involved in that?
Anybody can go. If you're interested, you just go to the website, type in Gun Rights Policy Conference. It'll take you to the Second Amendment Foundation's website. They have a page dedicated to it. They've been doing it for 35 years now. And just sign up. It's free. Which again, I think might be one of the reasons they don't want to have every Yahoo show up looking for free swag or something, or thinking it's like an opportunity to shoot something, because there's no guns there really, except for the concealed carry people might have one.
Where is it going to be this year?
Phoenix, Arizona.
Ooh, not too far from California.
Oh no, yeah, you should go for sure. It's right down the road. It's literally on 10, basically.
It's just at the end of the block.
Almost. Well, it's 5 hours from you, I guess, something like that.
I don't. What is the date of the gun rights policy conference?
The weekend of the 20th of September. So it's like the 21st and the 22nd, I think. But that's one thing. And I mean, it's nice. I'm going to encourage everyone to go there if you are able to travel and you do want to support the gun owners' rights groups. I think one of the best ways you could possibly do it is by putting your ass in one of those chairs in that room in Phoenix or wherever it happens to be each year. And those people who probably are at different levels of motivation look out at an empty room that's, a different situation than if they potentially looked out at a standing room only crowd that was sharing, what they're saying and interpreting what they're saying out to a whole bunch of people out there. So, yeah, definitely value, but it's not the only thing we got out there, and there's no single thing, right? I don't think anybody thinks there's one single thing we can do to, do whatever, save the Second Amendment. So what do we do? We got, Ghost had a show earlier about 2020, and we tried to talk about what might influence it, I guess. Is it, I think it's, nobody's going to say it's not worthwhile putting effort into the 2020 election, right? Trying to influence it. Or is anybody going to say that?
Well, I think that the 2020 election, I think that people are pretty secure that Donald Trump will have the Republican ticket. And there's a lot of people on the Democratic side throwing their names in the hats, which they're very unorganized. But my whole point with that was, yes, it might be a little bit early to talk about the 2020 election, but it's not too early to start organizing the Second Amendment movement as a part of the 2020 election. And Clover brought up a great point in the chat that instead of trying to change different things and all of that, we need to focus on making the Second Amendment a more relevant issue in the 2020 election. And maybe we need to start thinking now about how to do that.
Yeah, I think part of it, I don't know, when I think about it, I've said it before, and we got to be careful. We got to be careful not to divide ourselves by. Ooh, crap! I really unplugged my router. Got to be careful not to divide ourselves by non 2A issues. But at the same time, I think potentially an approach could be to, those other issues could be a point could create a situation to where you could bring up this, the Second Amendment, because I think that a lot of people, you may be having a conversation, let's say, over candidate A or candidate B, or maybe it's just some legislation, or maybe it's a general conversation that started, and maybe it started over taxes, maybe it's over schools, maybe it's over abortion or gay rights, whatever, and you find yourself on the opposite side of that position, and the person you're talking to maybe take that opportunity to pivot. Hey, well, obviously we're not, guess we're not going to agree on this. We see things differently, blah, blah, blah. Maybe pivot to the Second Amendment and, you know, try to see if there's actually any common ground there. Because, you know, like I said, all too often we get this, well, it's them against us. You know, they're a Democrat, they're a liberal, they're a libertarian, they're whatever, they're pro-abortion, they're, you know, whatever. And we sort of automatically assume that if they take on some of these leftist causes, that they're also anti-Second Amendment. And a lot of times that's not the case. And we may find that we actually have an ally with the Second Amendment, and it gives us the opportunity to go, oh, awesome. Well, you know, have you looked into this candidate or that candidate or, you know, whatever. And also it kind of opens the door to maybe, you know, I hate to use the word educate, because you certainly don't want to talk down to people, but so not in that fashion at least, but it gives us the opportunity to maybe talk to them and try to rationalize something out. Maybe the Second Amendment is just not on their list of concerns, and you know, hasn't considered it. It's not that they're against it, and it gives us an opportunity to kind of bring that to the forefront and maybe plant the seed, get them to understand a little bit that the Second Amendment is for everybody. And I hate to steal that from Big Tony, but that the Second Amendment is for everybody. And maybe the Second Amendment probably doesn't rise to the top of their, you know, list of attributes for the best candidate or whatever, but maybe it comes in at spot number 8 out of 10 or 6 out of 10. You know, you never know, just because of that conversation you had that could have started with any subject.
Well,
Yeah, I mean, you're right on that. But I mean, the point I really liked is that the Second Amendment is for everybody, because really, when you think about, well, I mean, it's really cliche to say, but the whole the second protects the first, like that whole thing. I mean, that's pretty true. And you see a lot of Democrats basically, you know, they want gun control. They say guns are evil. And then the other side saying, you know, no, don't take the guns. But I mean, that's America, right? Like, that's part of why we are the country that we are. And we all enjoy the liberties and freedoms that we have here. And that's, I mean, guns are why we have them. So I think people kind of forget that, like, once something gets taken away, whether you like that right or not, you know, if you think, you know, guns are horrible, whatever, that's fine, but you don't want to lose any rights. And I mean, and that does make the Second Amendment relevant for everybody, because they're going to they're taking your rights away. And so if they take that one away, you know, one you don't care about, what about when they take one away that you do care about? What then?
so
Yeah.
I hear what you're saying, that it requires that the person agrees that the right can be taken and that they appreciate them. So I hear you, but I think it takes a person who's already got something, a dog in the race, to appreciate that plea. But I wanted to ask Angelina, you've got a unique situation compared to the rest of us on the panel, because you're in California and you're younger than all of us, I think. Yeah, you are younger than all of us, and you're a girl, and you've been in guns a while in California, which is, again, just, you know, there's people that are in California. We figure there's 7 million gun owners, but you've grown up there and been around guns your whole life, right? So,
Right.
As that, where let me ask an open-ended question from your perspective, and you're also in California, which, you know, physically the states that are having the most infringements are kind of on the edges. So you literally have to, like, literally drive through, look past Nevada, Arizona, New Mexico, Utah, Colorado, you know, pretty much good, Texas and stuff, before you get over to the other states. So you, like, physically, and, like, you know, on a map, you're used to looking across the country. So from that perspective, all your different hats that you've got there, do you see this as being a game that can be won, or a game that's just going to always be a standoff, or is it something that we're inevitably going to lose and we're just lucky to keep what we got as long as we can?
I'm gonna say that for the last, I don't know, probably year and a half or so, that the last option is pretty much where I was, because here, I mean, we had a huge push with these petitions in California. We did a lot of work with it. And for as many gun owners are in California, nobody showed up. And it was practically like, I will drive this thing to your house for you to sign. And everyone just like, well, someone else will do it. But we all enjoy guns and we want them. So I definitely felt like, you're basically holding off. Like, we're in a boat that's taken water and you're just plugging up the little tiny holes with like chewing gum. And that's how it felt. But I mean, with Freedom Week and everything, it definitely kind of re-energized my Second Amendment spirit. And I think that there's ways, like there's these little diamonds in the rough, like Freedom Week, that kind of introduces things. And like, so all these magazines came into California like an obscene amount, probably more than anyone even imagined. And nothing bad has happened. They're calling these things dangerous, but these magazines that we basically had to like scramble to buy, you can go down to your corner store and get them, probably your corner gun shop. So yeah, I mean, I think there's a point to fighting. There's still a lot of fight in the game, and there's still there's efforts to be given, and there's things to do. And I hope that I don't know, a lot of people don't really get behind all the states. Like, you'll hear a lot of the California hate, just let them fall into the ocean, whatever. But dude, we're one nation. So we got to fight for everybody's Second Amendments, no matter what state you're in.
All right. Well, let me ask you specifically again, though. Of the three ways that it can go, do you think that the fight is winnable, and it's like, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, there is a win, like no NFA, everybody's got freedom, that it's this thing that we just are going to constantly be in a quagmire, or that are going to lose, and the best we can do is to keep what we got as long as we can? Which of those three would you say from your perspective?
I'm going to say realistically the middle one.
Okay. There's no wrong answers. I'm just kind of curious. I'm throwing you on the spot right there.
No, but because I think that there's the middle one, and I'm going to say the biggest reason why is because of the education. I mean, guns are still killing machines. That you leave one on a table, it's going to kill someone. And there's too many people that want to take that away. So it's always going to be a fight, because there's always going to be the, emotional appeals and all that. So I think it's always going to be a fight, but yeah.
I'm going to throw it out there that it wasn't always a fight. There was, 1776 to 1934, no federal firearms laws to speak of. So there was a long time when people just didn't care about what each other were doing. And it might take a lot to get us back to there. And none of us have lived in that existence, but our grandfathers have. Anyway, I threw a thing in the side chat earlier for anybody who's seen it. That I wanted to ask Angelina that first. But this one is for everybody. Do we start new campaigns each, I don't know what we want to call, cycle, like election cycle, or let's say there's a concerted effort for something like universal background checks or some effort on the anti side. Is it better to start new campaigns, or is it valuable? Is it useful to start new campaigns? Or is it better strategy? Is it wiser to use our resources to double down on, called prior, but existing fights or existing angles? Where do we go? And I'm not saying they're mutually exclusive, but new campaigns versus doubling down on existing.
I would tend to say new campaigns. Like for myself, my brother and I are going to work to try to get rid of the Attorney General of Washington. He's the guy that wrote the 1639 terrible bill. I feel like I can make more difference in the smaller setting than maybe a national effort, but maybe that didn't answer your question.
I think that's actually a pretty decent point there. I think that maybe on a national level, kind of put our efforts to something that we've already kind of gained maybe some ground or had some sort of, movement on the national level. But I think that at the local and state level, most definitely, I mean, things are changing so quicker in the state and local levels that maybe that's where the new initiatives maybe should take place. I don't know.
Well, the question you'd ask, I don't know. I mean, I like both what PNW and Ghost said, but I don't. I either understood the question differently or something, I guess. Because what I've got was you were talking more of strategy. Do we keep the same strategy and the same goal in mind every single election and build upon it? Or do we try something, go after something different or something new each and every time? That's kind of how I understood it. Was I mistaken in that?
Oh, I'm not saying I worded it all that, perfectly. So you can take it however you want. That's not a
Okay. I just
incorrect
didn't want to go
thing.
off. I just didn't want to go off on something that nobody understands. So I
Well, there's
definitely
no wrong
wanted
answers, but they're
to
answers.
lay a premise. I just wanted to make sure that people could understand where I'm going to go. And I've talked about this before, but I say multi. It's got to be multi-topic, multi-issue, multi-strategy. It's got to be shock and awe. And I think that it's evident that that's the route we need to take. If you look at a lot of these, especially these state legislatures, Texas, a place like Texas, and God forbid you're in a not that Texas is a bastion of red or conservatism necessarily, but if you take a place like here in Texas, for example, the flurry every session of anti-firearm, anti-Second Amendment, anti-gun bills that get introduced is staggering. It's unbelievable. There's a large number of them that are even redundant. I've talked about this before when I say a lot of times we don't cherish or relish the victories in not letting, we're like, well, this pro firearm bill didn't pass or this didn't pass. And we focus on that rather than the 15 bills that are anti that also didn't pass because that's a win. But that's a strategy that's been used, at least here, and I'm sure it's used in other states as well. Each and every cycle, it's that way. They throw as much garbage at the wall as they could possibly throw to try to get something through or get something to stick. Now, am I advocating that with that approach of shock and all that, we throw garbage at the wall? No, absolutely not. But, it goes back to these quote unquote divisions that we have. Every little sector, every little group, every little whatever, they have their own passion and their own cause. For some, it may be the NFA. For some, it may be, well, if we could just get suppressors off for right now. For some, it may be, the 4473. For some, whatever that might be. And I think that if we've got well organized, meaning that we all kind of know what each other is doing, that way we can direct people that have interest in that to go help with that project. So if we have a concerted effort, an organized and concerted effort within that shock and awe strategy, I think we can be much, because there's a lot to be said, at least here in Texas, that strategy is not successful. But part of why it's not successful is A, the organizational aspect. B, is the articulation and the facts and the way that the proposals are written and all of that other stuff. And C is public awareness. And so I think if we can hit on those three things with a shock and awe strategy, I think it could be successful. We may not see but one thing flop every 4 years or something like that. But imagine being able to get suppressors off NFA this next cycle. And then in 4 cycles, we're able to get rid of 4473, or maybe we just get rid of the marijuana thing out of the 4473, something that small even, which is a big passion for a lot of people. you know,
That's interesting. That would bring
and then
all
and
the
then move
potheads
forward.
in their that would bring all the potheads in their activism. That's interesting.
Absolutely, it would. And that's what I'm saying about using the different sectors.
All right. So the reason I'm asking is you can either start something new, participate in something that already exists, or do nothing, I guess, right? Or I guess another option would be to sit around telling everybody they're wrong about everything. So that's kind of different than doing nothing, because doing nothing, you don't bother anybody. When you sit around telling everybody they're doing everything wrong,
I disagree, G. You're wrong.
You might as well be working for Bloomberg, wouldn't that? So there's at least the people that do nothing ain't working for Bloomberg. So I don't know. I've been around for a while. Y'all been around for a while. We're all older than Angelina, so you've seen I want to call them efforts, projects come and go. Some of them were great. Some of them should have never got started. Are we in a quagmire? Are we spinning our wheels by not realizing what others have done and repeating our efforts? Or are we going through the necessary trials and tribulations, the right word, to create a stronger grassroots community, group that, eventually when we get our shit together is going to be stronger because we've done all that? Or is that just, some kind of inspirational sports movie being, whatever, or, and then we really should be kicking in established stuff that we can, focus the entire community behind, put power behind existing things. Yeah, Ghost, you got a weird static. You had the same static that Clover had earlier. Maybe that's a YouTube thing.
Is that better?
No. I mean, it's not there all the time, but it's there.
Mine was definitely a connector issue. I had to unplug some stuff and bypass the connector and plug it all back in.
See, this is Ghost's attempt to hog the mic. He knows by putting something on like that, he's going to get pegged on the screen and his logo is going to get more time on the screen.
That's right. Exactly. Is it bad enough where I can't talk to you to get off and get back on?
No, as long as it's just mute when you're not talking, I guess. But
Okay.
I'll throw the question out there again. So are we fractionalizing ourselves? I don't want to say divisions because it's flavor. It's the things that make guns interesting. There isn't gun, right? We're not all like, we like gun, right? We like guns. We like shooting. We like everything about it. There's a lot of stuff to delve into. It's a big part of culture and civilization, honestly. So, do we, but when like, however you want to consider the subsets of our community, when they all effort and, to different degrees of success, is that wasting our efficiency? Is that wasting our opportunities? We only have so many election cycles, right? Or should we be mobilizing to all be not in lockstep, but picking up the same rope and all pulling to show them our true strength? Are these mutually exclusive?
No, I think the problem that we have as a community is we have a lot of different types, like you said, different types of people that enjoy different types of the culture. The problem that we're having is I think that if we had a leadership, not saying a person, but an organization that took the forefront and said, as a community, this is what we need to focus on, or this is what we're going to focus on for the next 4 years. And a lot of people say, well, that's the NRA or GO or SAF. Well, the problem with that is in essence, the NRA probably is the best organization to do that because it encompasses so many different things. But so many people are in distaste of the NRA that they're not going to listen to them. But if we had an organization that was respected by the masses, that sat there and said, look, this is what we're going to focus on for the next 4 years. Here's our marching orders now. We have the means through the social media aspect to push this message out across the board. Then I think that the organization is great. I think that our community is literally thirsty for that entity to step up and take charge. We have a lot of people that are alpha males. No offense, Angelina, but I mean, I'm using it as a term, but the alpha person a lot of people in this community are alphas. But when it comes down to taking a leadership role and standing up and saying, here's what we're going to do, very few people are willing or able to take that leadership role. If we can find someone or an organization or an entity to sit there and say, as a community, here's what we need to focus on for the next 4 years, whether it's the NFA, whether it's 4473s, whether it's marijuana, whatever it is, we're going to centralize our focus politically for the next 4 years on this one topic. I think you'd see a mass movement with a lot of people, but we don't have the leadership or the organization right now.
I agree with part of that, but then not necessarily another part of it. So,
I also agree with part, but disagree completely with another part.
Right. So, I agree with the alpha dog, the ego issue. I get that, and that's going to play into what I'm fixing to talk about just a little bit. But as far as mass focus with everybody just absolutely focused on one issue, I don't agree with. Again, I go back to the shock and all the multi-strategy, but I do agree with some type of, and it's all part of the organization and the cohesion I was talking about, with a central organization or something that can take all of these various projects, whether it's the pro-weed guys trying to get marijuana off the 4473, or hey, the hunters, they're used to doing the suppressors now, but they're tired of waiting a year to get their suppressor. They want them off the list. They all go for that. To some of the more hardcores that's attacking the NFA, just do away with it, or whatever the projects are. Well, those pockets, right, work on those individual projects. They work on drafting the petitions. They work on writing the legislation. They work on, if this goes to court, we need to find a lawyer to interpret, and how do we write this? And if we need to attack this in court, how do we do it? They facilitate all of that stuff within their own pocket. But then when it comes time for comments, when it comes time for signatures on a petition, when it comes time to email congressmen on that particular subject, when it comes time to just do little things, right? Then that information, the egos are dropped, and that information is disseminated to some type of a central location that everybody is used to and everybody can go to, because I don't have time to be involved in like 20 different projects with 20 different facets of the Second Amendment. I just don't, and nobody does. So, if other people are working on their own thing, well, how hard is it for me once a month, once a week? I don't think it would even be that often, but once a month maybe, to sit down, get on a website, or I've got an email that's been sent out and it's got links and it says, you need to go here and email this congressman, you need to go here and do this, and you can spend like an hour a month, and so the community as a whole then is being active on those individual projects. Yes, they're supporting those individual projects or those individual efforts, but yet they're not having to facilitate everything and be all of their time be tied up in it, because maybe they don't have that kind of passion about that particular aspect. But getting marijuana off the 4473, for example, is not a high priority on my list as far as Second Amendment. But if somebody's out there efforting that cause, yeah, you want me to send something to a specific senator about this, that maybe you're trying to pitch it to that senator to introduce the bill or whatever, yeah, I'm there. You need me to sign a petition or something like that, yeah, I'm there. You need me to share a media post or something, yeah, I'm there. I can do things like that. I have the time available, and I do care enough to do those things.
So, are you done, Clover?
Yeah.
So those are good points, and I wasn't kidding. I also agreed with some of what Ghost said, but disagreed. So you brought up interesting points, but I don't think exactly. So I'm just going to try to not repeat everything that's the similar. But I think mine was summarized to that last thing I put in there: volunteers versus members. There's something to be said for members of an organization, but I think that we aren't limited to that. We're not all so busy or so unaware that we depend on, like, crucially somebody else to keep track of stuff for us. I think that we already do, and we probably, well, I know we should, spend some amount of our awareness on the issues that affect us locally and then regionally and nationally in that order, right? So as we all do that and we work as volunteers towards a goal as opposed to members assigned a task, I think that we end up with a stronger First Amendment militia, right? A bunch of people who are the equivalent of the militia that have, freedom of speech, but an awareness, so they are aligned with others. They're united, but they're not obligated to be in lockstep with others. But and then using the freedom of the press and assembly, all the other fun stuff we have with the internet, we as individuals' efforts. So you know what I mean? Like I guess my problem with the big organizations is even something like the NRA, which I bet you 2 years ago, 1 year ago, might be an interesting question. At what point, months ago, right, 18 months ago, 24 months ago, would it have been inconceivable to think the NRA was potentially going to be dissolved, right? There would have been like inconceivable to think that the NRA was at any risk, right? Except for maybe apathy. So I guess my idea is that if we, or my skepticism is if we rely on an organization to give us a task and to send us in a direction, we rely on that organization and their usefulness and their, all the things that an organization can get involved with. Whereas if we get accustomed and able to work as individuals, like you said, the alpha, like instead of working against that, instead of trying to get a bunch of alphas to act like a bunch of, it's not betas, is it? What would be the people that want to get into formation and seek out a life of not having to make decisions, like having decisions made for you?
A follower type person. Yeah.
Yeah. So instead of trying to ask a bunch of people who aren't in, that inclination to do that into some way, I mean, obviously not exaggerated, but to ask them to be members of an organization and perform tasks on demand, if you instead said, hey, go be you, and that's our goal over there at the top of that hill. I forget who brought up that analogy, but you don't micromanage a bunch of volunteers. You say our objective is get that hill, and you let them do it, right? They're going to come up with ways how to do it using their own skills and ambitions and knowledge and resources. So attempting to micromanage that requires that you have infinite knowledge of all of their stuff, and that's stupid. That requires somebody it's not realistic to happen or exist. And then if that person did exist, what happens if they go bad or they fail or they get sick? Then we're just a weakness. I don't think it's a good strategy. So I guess I long-windedly say I agree with the concept, but I kind of like the idea of empowering people to do it individually, or at least at some smaller unit level.
Well, sure. Yeah. And what I was saying by an organization taking charge, I wasn't trying to imply that whatever this organization or person or group of people said that here's what we're going to do, now here's how you do it. It was, let's centralize our focus on a task. And then, hey, like you said, here's our objective. Now we've got millions of cameras out there in our community that are doing media stuff, and we have a voice. Maybe that entices more people to turn the cameras on too, but you do your own thing. You do it how you want to do it, but ultimately, this is what we're pushing for this cycle or whatever. I'm not saying micromanage how they do it, just saying, look, maybe we should focus on this for the next year. Do your thing however you want to do it, but let's make this a priority. And then next year we move on to the next one or whatever. But man, I see exactly what you're saying. I don't disagree with anything either one of you are saying. I just wanted to clarify that I'm not saying that I want an organization to take charge of everything and tell us how to do it. It's just maybe they organize a movement.
Woods, you have a unique perspective because you've got the union, I'm guessing, and their like requirements on your districts and your schools and your curriculums and that kind of thing. And then you've got the homeschool people that are constantly, probably giving you criticism or whatever. And then a bunch of people that don't care anywhere in the middle. that you always have to deal with because they're paying all the bills because you people suck off of us. So how do you see this? This is I don't know if it's a complete parallel, but how do you solve this for us?
I think, like I said, I think we have to all work a little more locally. Another example would be the insurance commissioner here. He's going to ban like carry insurance, and that seems like a kind of a minor thing, but that's certainly an infringement as well. But then with like the union, super frustrating. The teachers union gives to pretty much everyone that's anti-gun, and that comes right out of my pocket. But I've gone to union meetings and said, hey, I'm not real cool with some of the things you're doing, but I'm just one guy. And then, I get, but I have them in the union bring it up because there's been a little bit of backlash on that, but super frustrating.
Well, when you say that you encourage and you would encourage focus on local, really local, and not necessarily just the prime time elections, but like the less important or less glamorous stuff, let's say, or the less influential yet all voted, all elected, right? What you're inadvertently, I think, saying there is kind of the side of individual action and awareness, because I'm only assuming that because there's really no organization that I'm aware of that pays anything but like the most, superficial interest in local stuff. I mean, that's too big a task for pretty much any organization, except for NRA, who squanders their money. But if they would use their resources well, they might have had the resources, but they didn't. All the other organizations are taxed, and they don't have that, focus on every state or every local. So that kind of, am I wrong? Am I putting words in your mouth? But that requires like individual effort, or at least way regional, smaller group effort.
Yeah, well, exactly. I think throughout my life, we've all done it. Where, well, at least myself, where you give money to the NRA, taken 20 years ago, and they'll take care of all that. But now that I'm more informed, we got to quit waiting for the cavalry. You are the cavalry. And then a lot of the ideas, like the gun grabbers, like to do little bits at a time. I think we should do little bits at a time too, like get rid of Bob Ferguson because he's the one that wrote the bill. So if we can get rid of him, does the next attorney general want to write an anti-gun bill? Maybe he'll write a gun bill about actual crime or something. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think that I don't know. Again, there's lots of opportunity here, because as efforts like you're talking about in that specific case, either happen, ideally, or successful, letting others know about that is going to inspire them and encourage them to do the same thing where they're at. That's how you create momentum, right? That's how you get a movement going, to literally be the definition of a movement.
Yeah, definitely.
Anybody else want to take on any of these concepts of individual versus group, or whatever the first topic was there? Otherwise, I got that other one for Angelina. I'm a threader. I don't want dead air tonight.
Nope, on to Angelina time.
So going back to your quote unquote Freedom Week, where the laws changed and it was okay for y'all to buy 30 round mags, or anything over 10 again, I guess, basically.
Right.
And then it turned out in hindsight that it was only a week because they put an injunction on the thing that had launched the infringement. I don't know, back and forth, but basically you had a week where you were able to legally purchase. Now you are in a unique situation, and that's one because you're in business and you had the patch, right? So you're kind of like finger on the pulse, kind of both awareness wise and as far as doing business, like just rate of sales type of thing, right? And then because of your nature of your business, you're on Instagram and stuff. So my question is, how does the week of that Freedom Week, or like the lead up, because there wasn't a heck of a lot of lead up. I know you knew about it ahead of time, but then it really happened, and then there was like most people were interested in obtaining and procuring them, but then there was some scarcity and whatnot. But then no one knew it was only a week, so there was no rush, like a mad rush. There was just an initial interest, and then a mad rush when they figured out it was about to end. So how does that sort of event, right, that week plus happening, compare to any of the other big California anti-gun initiatives that you've had to suffer over maybe the past 5 or 6 years or whatever, since social media has helped the rest of the country become aware of it? And I guess my reason I'm asking, like, for you to compare the Freedom Week, like all the event of Freedom Week, to other anti Second Amendment kind of things that happen in California. I'm wondering, did you get more interest from those of us in the other 49 states during Freedom Week, or in other past things, like maybe the Ninth Circuit making a decision, or some massive infringement on your ability to own property or something? Like, do we care more when you're getting whooped, or do we care more when you get the carrot?
Definitely when the carrot was gotten, because I followed like Firearms Policy Coalition, and they always post everything, and I see a couple people repost it, but it's mostly always people in California. So outside of California, I don't know, it kind of seems like we're fighting our own battle, and people don't know or don't care. But I mean, Freedom Week, that kind of just like rippled through the community, because we were buying mags out and everyone was out of stock. So I think it got a lot of FaceTime, I guess we'll call it, because it was a win. I mean, it was at first, we found out on a Friday at like 6:00 when, stuff was all closed. So no one really knew, like, does this mean tomorrow morning? And then there was kind of like, I don't know, maybe. And then there was like, I guess people were calling the DOJ or something, and it was like, yep, you can sell them, or lawyers or whatever. So yeah, it was like a week where people just went insane and were grabbing them. And I think that kind of helped ripple it through the community. And I definitely think it got more press because it was a win, but I definitely wish like the losses got as much publicity, I guess.
I can only speak from my point of view from the outside looking in, but I remember when that happened, and there were a lot of people from all over the country that were excited, and I think a lot of it was because something happened that we never thought would. Is even a small win, even if we're a week, it was a win in California, which I think people had almost given up on California. But I think it's an interesting thing what you just said, Angelina, about the ripple effect, and I never thought about that. People were probably going online, buying 30-round magazines all over the place to get shipped to California. And that did affect everybody else as a consumer, because now I'm trying to buy just a 30-round magazine and they're all sold out. Well, I never thought about it's probably because everyone in California was ordering them. So I never even thought about that, but that's a really interesting concept.
How cool is it that, we've had shortages in the past, most often, I think, due to like fires and weird circumstances in the delivery of the commodities, like the lead or whatever to make the powder, every once in a while because of politics. But how cool is it when it's something like that because a state gets infringement removed and they're able to just plain old purchase, and the rest of us feel that. That's neat.
Yeah, and there were a lot of, I guess I'll call them freedom fighters from, outside of enemy lines that were like, hey, do you need mags? I'll go down to my store and grab them and ship them to you right now. So that, there were a lot of people like offering that up on Instagram, even to perfect strangers, like, oh, you're looking for this mag and it's out. Hey, my local has them. I'll go get them and ship them to you. No problem, dude.
This is another question for Angelina, because again, you're in California. We've all seen that meme where there's like a rowboat and there's a bunch of people in the boat, and the one person's treading water, right, or whatever, bailing water. They're at the end where the pole is, and they're sinking, and they're bailing water so that they don't go under, right? And then the people in the middle are kind of not sure what to do. And then the people on the one end are way up out of that water, right? They're laughing. They think there's no problem. They're not even wet. Everybody's familiar with that?
Yes.
So my concern is, now let's say that, that cartoon is the Freedom Week, right? Y'all get your magazines for a week, and it's like, okay, you don't have to bail water anymore, right? And then everybody starts giving you magazines. Aren't you worried that your end of the boat's going to sink because it's so heavy with magazines, and you're going to be back in the same position, even though there's freedom?
Well, I'll use all my magazines to like build a raft.
All right, that's a good answer.
But yeah, that meme, it says, "Sure glad the hole isn't at our end," while the Californians are like bailing water. That meme is very, very true. As a Californian who knows, a lot of people in free states, it's definitely true. That's why I get triggered, dude, when people make fun of like California gun laws and like laugh at us and say, "Oh, just let them fall in the ocean." I get triggered because I care about your gun rights. Like I would fight for your gun rights, even though I don't live in New Jersey or Kentucky or wherever you're getting something taken from you. I would absolutely go to bat for you because the Second Amendment is for everybody.
Speaking of the Second Amendment, Gizzard Gary isn't here tonight. I'm looking for the most creative reason why. Woods, why isn't Gary here?
He's busy with other chickens.
Ghost, why isn't Gizzard attending the Daily Gun
Because
Show?
I think he's scared to death of the snake that Clover's showing on a screen right now.
Oh yeah, that is a snake. Clover, you got the screen. Why isn't Gizzard in our Daily Gun Show tonight?
I think we found the reason, honestly. I
Is
should
there
have
a
seen the.
Is that a chicken snake?
Is there
That
a big
is a.
is there a
Yes,
big is there a big giant lump in that snake?
down toward the end there is. So he's eating something today, or recently. Yeah.
So what do you got there? Is that a black or what do you call it?
That's a black mamba. No, it's a chicken snake. Looks like a chicken snake to me.
What's the other ones that you got down? What are the venomous ones you got in Texas?
The which ones?
What's the venomous ones you have in Texas?
Ooh, the water.
Cottonmouth.
We got
Moccasins,
cottonmouths, moccasins,
Okay.
copperheads. Yeah, he's not a moccasiner. Regardless of what he is, he's non-venomous, and I'm gonna find a stick and run him off. I'm not gonna hurt him. But
So what's your deal with snakes? You don't grab them by the body and just take them. You use a stick.
no, I'm not that brave. No. I'll find me a stick.
Okay. Dead horse. Why isn't Gary? Why isn't Gary here tonight?
He flew the coop.
All right. Well, that was quick, and I'm going to suggest maybe even the most creative. But we got Angelina. Why isn't Gary here?
Colonel found him.
Oh, that was a tough one. So I'm going to ask the audience who won. Why isn't Gary here? Which is the correct story. Sort of like Who's That Line Anyway, or whatever that show was, except it's about Gizzard Gary and why he's not on the show. What else do we got tonight? Y'all have been here before. What do we want to do?
I wanted to dig into the whole Angelina talking about you guys that whole boat analogy, right? Where the boat's sinking and fighting for other states' rights and all that, and how can we help other states? Like how can someone outside California who's in New York or Florida or wherever, how can they directly help California, help get stuff done, help make change there? Like how can we do that when we're not in California? Like give us some ideas and help with that.
Do you want me to give you some ideas?
I would love some ideas.
Oh, okay. So first and foremost, I would say definitely give money to pro 2A organizations. And the one that does a lot for California is Firearms Policy Coalition. They're constantly up in Sacramento and in and out of courthouses here in California. They do a ton. They're great guys. I really like them. They're awesome. So definitely give them some money. Also, the California Rifle and Pistol Association, they're very good. Yeah, and then as far as other things, I mean, petitions, even write to our senators and stuff and say, hey, I live in Texas and you probably don't care, but F you or whatever. The the more people that are like flapping their gums, the more you get heard, right? The squeaky wheel gets the grease. So, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what I got.
And what can people in California?
Hold on.
What can they do to?
No. Let's keep going on that one. Anybody else want to throw in on that side of it?
I was made aware of an organization called Cal Guns. Have you heard of this, Angelina?
Absolutely. Calguns.org or calguns.com?
Yeah, it's called Cal Guns Foundation or something like that. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. That's a Firearms Policy Coalition.
What is that noise? Is that
Oh,
somebody?
okay. Is it like a state level thing through the firearms policy?
I'm not exactly sure, but they're like Calguns. There's like a thing there, but there's another Calguns, which they're pretty vocal in California. They show up to everything. They're based out of here, like the Los Angeles area, so that's even, blowing everyone's minds constantly because Los Angeles, whoa, no guns. But yeah, they're very vocal, even for things that you might not think matter. Like they do like range cleanups and stuff. We have BLM land out here and people trash it, and they do, these secret, super secret zombie shoots, and they clean up the area, and it's a good time. But yeah, they encourage people to give money to all kinds of stuff, and they show up and they facilitate like the petition thing I was talking about. They really helped facilitate all of that. So they're good too. And I don't think there's like Cal Gun Shooting Sports Foundation. I think that's them that does that.
Anybody else want to throw into what we can do outside of the states that are being infringed upon?
What about the boys out of Bellevue, the Second Amendment Foundation? They've been trying to fight our 1639, and they fight all the time in courts everywhere. But also the idea that like if it can't happen to your state, what happened to California? Well, I'm living that, so that's not true.
Oh yeah, so is Oregon. Oregon was another one where I even had friends who moved from California to Oregon because the gun rights are so much better, and they're pretty much getting, that now. So it can definitely happen to you if you stop abdicating for the Second Amendment. I mean, they'll take it or infringe on it at least.
Anybody else want to throw in on how we can help from outside? All right, well, so we all got families. So that's first off, I'd have families that live in these states, and having conversations with them, even when it's difficult, is an effort that we can do as individuals, right? We work at companies, so they might have branches or divisions or stores in those states. There might be something that you could do with the store that's indifferent to create some influence. Churches are often have whatever things in other locations. So depending on the store or the church, I guess you could have some avenues that way. There's organizations like Scouts and 4-H and all kinds of civic organizations that again have branches or outlets in all the different states. So that's another outlet, and it's getting people that aren't just from a gun owners organization involved. Again, using Patriot in the Dark, his concept of addressing it from the liberty angle, that this is infringements that the president has taken outside of his role with the balances of power, and let's be aware of it, and an opportunity to do some outreach or whatever. Sister cities, a lot of states will have a lot of cities will have sister cities in other states. It's a potential. And then all the what do you call them, like going there on vacation. What am I trying to say? What's the word for going on vacation? I can't think of that word. When you're going to
on a retreat.
No, whatever the term for the industry when they're making their money on. It's not recreation. Is it recreation? Anyway, whatever the word I'm thinking of. Disneyland and shit, for example. Letting Disneyland know, hey, I planned on taking my multiple kids on a trip, or maybe I was going to take my cheerleading thing, blah blah blah. Now we're going to Kansas, because California laws, letting I can't think of the damn word I'm trying to think of for travel or whatever. So, doing your tourism, damn it, tourism. So if you're, a lot of these states, most states have a big portion of them is tourism, and they're competing with every other state and the world. So they desperately care. They monitor feedback. I have some insight into that, and they definitely monitor that, and they take action based on the feedback they get from tourists. If you're going to consider yourself a capitalist, depending on your opinion on product boycotts and letting a capitalist company know that you as a consumer have opinions and you're going to vote with your wallet. And companies that are, not like you work for, like I was saying before, but companies that you do business with, letting them know you're now doing business with, not with Levi's, right? You're going to buy Wranglers, correct? Right? Levi's is the anti-gun one, that kind of thing. And when you're not going to spend money with somebody, taking the time to write a letter to let them know why you're not spending money, again, they're spending a lot of money to get consumer feedback. And if they make a stupid business decision and never get any feedback on it, except for us in social media, and they're not tuned into that, they might never understand the consequences. And then I'll just add the local organizations, right? We all know that each state has a equivalent, local rights organization. Angelina talked about the California Rifle and Pistol. So often there's a competition or education state level organization supporting them, and then encouraging them to be political if they're not already, or acknowledging them for being political in addition to their other aspects. Supporting gun shops. There's Gun for Hire, a shop in New Jersey, is an awesome shop, right? Buying something over the email, like a t-shirt or something, not over the email, over the internet, like a t-shirt or something, to support a business that's sporting systems in Washington State. I mean, awesome, efforts for Second Amendment awareness. So supporting those kind of stores, even if you can't support them financially, letting them know, following them on the platforms, of course, but letting them know, like, hey, I appreciate what you're doing. You're not just doing it to avoid. That can be a motivation, right? Right. Now, Dead Horse can say the second part of his sentence. On that.
I was going to ask Angelina. Now, what? Let's see. I was going to ask her. So, if you're in California and we're sending money to California directly, participating in like FPC stuff like that, what can people in California do to get more people's attention out of these other states? And I think G-Web's kind of hit that nail on the head already with the whole family thing and getting the message out. But I'm just curious, from your perspective, being there, what do you think that people can do in California to help get these people from other states to notice California and, hey, look at us, we need help? What do you think that people in California can be doing to get that message out?
What if you change the shape of the state's like boundaries to look exactly like an AR-15 magazine?
Mm-hmm. And I think if you like put feedlips on the top, it look pretty cool. Maybe some kind of date. I don't know. Just an idea I had. But yeah, I think that giving money, caring about, spreading, like even like a repost, like Firearms Policy Coalition, they post a lot of stuff, and even just reposting it and making like if I repost it on Instagram, maybe you guys will all see it, and maybe Ghost will repost it, maybe Dead Horse repost it, and now people in other states will see it too. So it's kind of just helping get the word out for us. So us Californians, get the word out to all you guys. And and I think going to things like SHOT Show and Gun Rights Policy and NRA and stuff like that, and being, presence and talking and collaborating is a good way to make people aware of what's going on here in California. A lot of people, they don't even know like some of the stuff. Like I'll be in a lobby or whatever, just talking to some guys, and I mention, I got to wait 10 days to get my gun once I buy it. And they're like, wait, what do you mean? And I say, yeah, we have a 10-day cooling off period, and people had no idea. And now they're like, whoa, that's crazy. How do you guys stand it? So I think it's just a lot of bringing awareness and just being vocal and saying, hey, you know, we got crappy rights here and help us out, guys. But yeah, I mean, it's I don't know, it's a fight for us all.
Well, I think it's an interesting concept about funding organizations because we talk a lot about the anti-gun side being well funded through Bloomberg, and they've got one person spending millions and hundreds of $1 million countrywide to fight, the gun rights. But imagine if, anywhere from 30 to 100 million, gun owners in America. No one really knows this, but let's be conservative and say it's 30 million people. If 30 million people that own guns in America were to set aside $1 to put it towards different states to fight, that's $30 million to fight Bloomberg. And we don't need to have our own Bloomberg. We are the Bloomberg, but we just have to all be motivated enough to set aside a couple dollars to send to FPC, send to these different states that are having troubles. We could fight them financially, step by step if we're able to do that. So I think that that'd be something we can do from the outside is send money to these organizations that are grassroots to say, hey, we're going to fight Bloomberg with our own wallets.
I'm curious on Wood's perspective, since his state's been under attack a lot recently. On what does Wood think that he can do to get other people involved from outside of his state to help make proactive change there?
I love the idea of calling all of my relatives because I'm from a big old Catholic family, and that's a lot of people. I guess another idea would be, like Angelina said, the social media aspect of like if I post something that maybe friends of mine that from other states could repost it, but also making sure that when you're advocating for the second, you're not doing some of those posts that are like that are going to turn people off, that are just more education. Like just think about it. I really like the Patriot in the Dark, like when you're talking to people about it and going with the liberty, the seconds for everyone. You don't want to, even if you don't care about guns, you don't want to lose your rights. I think also there's a lot of the states that don't have a lot of people in them that are very pro gun, but aren't really worried about it, like like Wyoming or whatever, or Montana, that they could help us because by writing to our Congress people because but if we turned around and did it for them too, there's a lot of us. You could win an election in Montana with very few people because there's not that many people to start with. I think we also need to get figure out a way to get more of the people that are like Washington. It's one county that's telling all the other 39 counties how to live their lives, and not sure what to do about that. But
so I love the idea of using the social media and stuff like that, and relying on like reposting and stuff like that. A lot of people are going to see that. I also think a lot of people are going to miss that and pass that right by. Oh, what? That's not a picture of a gun, a bunch of words. I'm just scrolling right past that. And so I think that's going to miss a lot of people. How about also being like very vocal and hitting other people up, especially people with influence and larger viewer counts and stuff like that. Say, hey, by the way, we have this coming up in Washington. It would be so awesome if you could mention this for me or whatnot. To a lot of these larger channels and stuff like that, and being proactive about getting that word out and like really going to them and asking them, hey, like we have this bill coming up.
All right. They're not mutually exclusive. I want to interrupt you so I don't forget the first part. I'm going to disagree with you on the first part. They're not mutually exclusive, so that's not the situation. You can do both, and there's no reason not to do both. But I think that it's
I was saying do both.
Important to do the first one for multiple reasons. The second one is of value, but the best you can do is nag somebody to do something. They're going to do the least they can do to get you off their back, right? They're not going to do it. So asking somebody or leading the way and doing something so that they can, learn by your example, that would be better, because then they'd have a true true interest in doing it. So I'm not a fan of the second way. Second thing is, every effort we spend the second way is to some extent temporary, because you're talking about doing that in the comments. So only a certain number of certain people are going to see that video. Certain people are going to, smaller number are going to read the comments, and even smaller number are going to read your comment. So the reach you're talking about getting there is only finite, not invalid. It's worth, it has worth, but I'm trying to put it in perspective. Now, if you post something, number one, our goal isn't to win everybody over so that the entire country is in lockstep saying, like, I want to own a machine gun. I don't think we even want that. It'd be great if everyone had that freedom, but just because we have the freedom to do it doesn't mean everybody's going to participate in it. And anyway, so we don't need everybody, and we don't need every post that has value to also be viral or also be interesting or entertaining. So by putting up a post that simply has merit, don't be discouraged in putting up a post that simply has merit, because it won't get numbers. In fact, I'm going to encourage people to put up posts with merit in spite of the fact it won't get numbers, for two reasons. One, it puts it out there, and you never know the one individual set of eyeballs at the right set of times that might see that. But secondly, you're archiving it, even on a shitty platform like Instagram or Facebook, where they're basically a feed. So it's very difficult to find previous things. It's possible for people to find previous things. It's possible for them to stumble across it. It's possible for them to see your feed. But no matter what, it exists. And the AIs that read the internet, the fewer pro 2A of merit posts there are, that gets put into the calculation. The more there are, that gets put into the calculation. We want to live in a world where there's more 2A posts of merit, with even if they have few views. So, and we're being centric here, thinking about Instagram or YouTube or whatever. Ideally, people that are creating content, especially content with merit, are posting it on their own website and then using the tools, the platforms to distribute. So they get the reach, and they can put them out there to be seen by humans and get acknowledged by the robots, but also putting it on their own site so it's there for the rest of the time. And then it's putting out your voice, and it's putting out your nuance, and it's allowing the conversation to develop, where, like you're saying, trying to convince someone to do something for you has value, but I definitely don't want to call them mutually exclusive. And that first one is, if you're going to do one or the other, I'm going to encourage you to do the first, to put out a post that has very little entertaining or interesting value, yet has merit.
No, I agree 100%. I believe the first way does have a lot of merit. I really do. I like I said, I love the idea of that, but I also like the idea of trying to. I don't know if I want to use the word pressure, but there's obviously some people out there with a lot of reach, a large viewer subscriber count that I feel just they're not vocal enough. They're not. I mean, it's almost like they're just there to say, "Hey, look at this gun, watch me shoot it," and that's it. And I mean, they don't seem to. They stay out of the politics. They stay out of all that.
You're not a big channel. You don't understand. It's not your fault or anything. But a big channel, if a big channel like myself, if we were to talk about Second Amendment issues, what would happen is we'd alienate people from the conversation. They would run from firearms because they would hear that there's some kind of freedom or something. So you're expecting something from us that we just can't do. Like, we understand the way the world works, and we have to backpedal from that kind of stuff.
My question is, do you guys have all the same agent?
I'm not supposed to talk about that kind of stuff online.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I'll do that off air. My bad.
But my point of that was just like I hate to use the word pressure, but I kind of like the idea of like I think some of these guys need to be like, hey, like you're making money in this industry, like we'd appreciate it, if you were more vocal. I mean, just putting that out there to them, and maybe if they heard that enough, maybe they would do so. I don't know. I'm not the I don't know.
I'm not a fan of it because I haven't seen it been successful, and I've heard people literally since the beginning of Every Second Matters, at least with that, whatever. So the rest of the panel, what do you think? Is that something that?
I think that a lot of us have been talking about this for a while. That I think that we need to continue to try. I think the reality sets in, though, that a lot of these bigger channels could really care less what goes on outside of their little world, unfortunately.
I agree with Ghost for sure.
Oh well, I'm gonna have to mute some of you if you're gonna all talk over each other. So.
Do you think? Does anybody feel like it's changing over time, or is there any of the really big channels that have gotten a little better?
I think Mac has Tim has his moments, but I think that it's more focused toward the NRA. I mean, obviously Yankee, he does, but very few times do you see Hickok or Eric, and God forbid we even bring up Demo Ranch. You don't see Suits, you don't see a lot of these mega channels really do a whole lot. But then again, I don't understand their life either because they probably are very busy. They're being pulled in a lot of different directions. And I'm not making an excuse for them, but I mean, I don't see the ones that are trying to change that. I don't see it, no.
All right. Well, like I say, I don't have hopes for that. I don't have any interest in it. I've been watching them for a long time, and they certainly haven't gone that way on their own. And I don't know why. That's just a YouTube centric thing. So we could be talking about other, what do we want to call these people? Influencers or whatever, people with audience or reach. There's bigger ones. YouTube is kind of small. What about movies? It's got a Milas in there. Is it worth congratulate movies that put effort into their firearms? Asking me.
What if we, instead of trying to worry about influencers, I think that all of us get emails and all of us do a lot of things with Gun Owners of America and SAF. Why not try to get the Alan Gottliebs and the Eric Pratts to vocally come out and do a video on their channels about, something like that. I think that would probably hold more clout than if Eric Better 8888 says something.
That definitely might.
Videos. Go ahead.
I was gonna say that definitely might reach people that aren't like that might be in the middle or even on the anti-gun side. That's definitely going to reach probably a larger amount of people. Whereas if someone like one of these gun channels put out something, well, they're probably just reaching a bunch of other gun people, right? So but there's also that. What's that, G?
No, you're talking about like the giant gun channels. Those are reaching people in Indonesia and people in Europe, and they're laughing at them, and they're reaching, the news show because they need somebody to laugh at for concealed carry or something, or they want an extreme picture or something blowing up. Those views are not potential Second Amendment advocates. Look at the membership of the NRA and the number of people that show up at rallies. That's an indication of people that cared enough to become on the roster with the NRA, 5 million or something? And how many people show up at rallies? To suggest that the audiences of these things are like a potential pool? No, it's a small piece of that pool. Probably more like the population that watches FPC or Second Amendment Foundation or one of these other foundation or organizations that has a YouTube outlet. Those might be somewhere around what Matt, Never Enough Ammo would get. 100,000 view, 100,000 sub type of channel. They're not going to get the 30,000 views that a Yankee will get or something like that. But I think that if you're talking like, even if you were successful and you were able to somehow get the ear, say something in a way that got it through to, fill in the blank large entity on YouTube, and they put out a video once a week. Is that reasonable? Like, are they going to put one out once? Are they going to put one out once a month? Are they going to put one out once a week? Let's say ideally they'd put something out on the second. They go, hey, it's the second day of the month. Why don't we put out a video about the Second Amendment and encourage people to do something? The people that are watching a video of massive channel, are they watching that channel for purchase decisions? Are they watching that for entertainment? Or are they watching that to be motivated and to be an activist? I mean, I guess you're hoping that some of them will understand that being an activist is a thing and they could try it.
Well, yeah, that's exactly. I'm talking about like mainly reaching the people in the middle or the undecideds or the people just kind of sitting there on their thumbs right now. Like kind of different subject, but I talked about that earlier. Like some people are just waiting for the opportunity to come along or someone to kind of kick them in the butt a little, or to motivate them.
I think those people are watching your reloading chat. Those people are watching you talk about an 80%er. I don't think those people are like watching Hickok shoot a pumpkin. It's just my educated guess, I guess, or my theory. What do you guys think, though? I guess we're going to keep dragging on this. Do we need to keep dragging on it, or?
Well, I think I'm going to jump in because I've been out for a little while, but I think that it's a missed opportunity. That a lot of the larger channels could. I mean, I get what you're saying. Viewers come for a certain reason a lot of times, and that reason's not to hear a bunch of shall not be infringed, or even if something as mild as 2A news. That channel they may not come for that, and that's fine. But that doesn't mean that you can't incorporate some things here and there into your content that at least challenges people and maybe gets them to think. At least does that much.
Is this idea similar to what you were saying, G, about putting out memes or something on social media that even though that people that won't get a lot of response, but you never know that one eyeball? Is it kind of that one eyeball idea that even though it wouldn't be largely successful, maybe it would get a few of those eyeballs to go and do something?
Yeah, I mean, there definitely, when you've got 1 million people watching something, some amount of those people are exactly what Dead Horse is talking about, for sure.
I'd say what I'd like to see happen is not necessarily the large YouTube channels or whatever you want to call them, social media, entities or personalities. I think what I would really like to see, and I think would hold a lot more clout, is if Smith & Wesson, Ruger, and Glock, and all these manufacturers, Brownells, and all these companies that are big in the industry, if they would jump on board and say, hey, to all my brothers and sisters out there that love the Smith & Wesson guns, let's keep our minds on what's going on in California. We really need to put some resources out there to help our brothers and sisters in California get some freedom. If you start seeing the manufacturers publicly become more active, that might help a lot as well.
Great idea.
Okay, so again, let's be realistic. A business has a business to deal with. They got competition, they got laws they have to deal with. They just have to build a better mousetrap, right? They got to decide which of their models they're going to keep around. I mean, there's a million things they got to deal with as a business. So to expect them to just jump up and do this would be nice, but I don't think it's realistic. So how do you get a channel? How do you do something to motivate that, or to set of circumstances that make them want to do that or consider that valuable enough to devote resources to? If we're talking the two ideas, an individual posting content and adding their voice to the conversation and encouraging others to participate in their project, and then collaborating with others who are that is what grassroots is: individuals doing something and then it growing based on its merit and its value, and then people, growing from that. I think you change Smith and Wesson's mind not by having Hickok occasionally say care about the Second Amendment. I guess maybe if you had a Hickok who has a relationship with some of these companies say, hey, I really value the Second Amendment, let's do this. So if you can influence the influencer, go for it. I think that's it. It has merit. Very few people, I think, have the ability to influence an influencer. But if everybody is motivated to start creating videos about Second Amendment, what it means to them, Taco has been encouraging that. People started actually taking Patriots Project, which nobody's participating in because I haven't even done it. It's actual work, but going on and finding out, what's infringing on you locally, regionally, state, and then, I guess state, regional, and then federal, and then putting that in focus on liberty, bringing that to people in the real world, going up to the next level and trying it again and doing it again, basically becoming politically active and aware, and then encouraging others to be aware, like putting in that kind of effort. Like that's what then creates trends. That's what the political analysts who watch what's going on out there, and when they see a blip, that's exactly what it is, a blip. Here's somebody out of the ordinary. They're talking about the Second Amendment. That happened. Blip, right? Ping on a radar. Now, if hundreds of people and now thousands of people and larger and larger audiences start talking about the Second Amendment all the time, where before they were talking about what color grips to buy for their third handgun that they don't take training for, right? Like if those conversations start changing organically, what do you think? I mean, that's what they pay Google to pay attention to. They want Google to pay attention to that kind of trend so that they can be on the cusp of that and cater to that. And that's how you get Smith and Wesson to say, hey, we care about the Second Amendment because the community that they're paying, is buying their products cares about it. And then you're going to find companies jumping on board to care about the Second Amendment.
Absolutely. And that's the whole point how do we get these major companies? And I'll take one for instance. Let's say PMAG. PMAG is obviously not the same level as Ruger and Smith & Wesson and Glock and all that. But PMAG is a very big deal when it comes to magazines. I would have loved to have seen PMAG jump on board the Freedom Week in California and do something publicly. Hey, they sell that product. That's what they make their living on. I would have loved to have seen PMAG take advantage of what happened in California for a brief time to really expose what was happening in the industry for their business and say, maybe, we had this for a week. Now let's try to push forever now. And that only helps their sales as well. So they would have a vested interest in that possibly.
And I'm not trying to shit on you. I got nothing against Dead Horse. I'm just been around for a while, and I've seen, again, just in Every Second Matters, literally just in Every Second Matters conversations, that comes up. Like for some reason, probably because we're on YouTube right now, and our audience is on YouTube, and until we rip this off and throw it over, not rip this, take this from YouTube, take our property from YouTube, put it over on Gunstreamer where we value, the platform, being on YouTube, we are aware of YouTube people or whatever, but Adam just said in the YouTube chat, YouTube that they were talking about, my dad is nearly 0% online. Not that he's a FUD, he just isn't, just that he's ignorant or oblivious to a lot of the ongoings because he's not online. And only in the last couple of months that they've got a smart TV and he's been adding things to their smart TV, his dad become more aware. He says the small morsel type bites that Guns and Gadgets delivers is a gateway that's opened his dad's eyes to all what's going on with the 2A outside of what the NRA sends him or what's in their magazine. So that's, I think, an example of what I'm trying to say is that we don't know all the different ways to reach everybody out there. And there's no giant voice that just because I got numbers is going to be like the message that people are looking for. And I think that even though it's not an easy answer like to accept or whatever, I think that's the reason I keep bringing that up is that over the years I've seen people, again, because we're on YouTube, look at those big YouTube stars and think, if only, And it's the same thing with Bloomberg. If you'd have been bringing up Bloomberg and wish we had you mentioned it in the side chat, right? If we had a Bloomberg on our side, I think it's the same problem. Is that it's like, oh, okay, they'll do it for us. Like, I'm going to support them.
And I can totally see that. I can see people because people already do that. Like, oh, yeah, I just pay my dues to the NRA or whoever, and they take care of it for me. I mean, that's
the answer now, right? Like, go donate to the good GOA. I'm like, guess what? The GOA has a shit ton of money. Like, in fact, if you listen to them at the gun rights policy, they've almost never said send us money. They don't. They go, we got money. Give us plaintiffs. Give us plaintiffs and lawyers. We got lawyers. We got money. Give us lawsuits. And now they can't imagine how much they've got since the initiatives on YouTube to, the anti and the NRA initiatives, not just on YouTube, but everywhere, I guess. They must be rolling comparatively.
I think that there's something that, and I hate to bring this up, though, I don't want to be Debbie Downer, but there is an elephant in the room. And the vast majority, and I'm going to say the vast majority, I don't know them all personally, obviously no one does, but I think the vast majority of the gun community are not Second Amendment aware. It's not that they don't care. It's not that they're apathetic. They live their lives. They do not make the Second Amendment a priority in their lives. They're gun owners. They're passionate about their guns. They love their guns, but they're normal people that have families, jobs, other hobbies. Guns are a part of their lives, but they never even want to get involved with the political or the activist side of the Second Amendment. I think that's the thing we got to worry about is the vast majority of gun owners do not really care about the Second Amendment. They feel safe. They feel like we've got my guns. I love them, but I just don't have the time nor the energy to get involved in the activism side. And that's where we're hurting the most.
Now, we all know you're talking about 9mm owners here mostly. Do you think
mostly, yeah.
Do you think if they changed calibers, they'd wake up?
I think that there is a possibility that could be happening. I think that the higher the caliber, the higher the intelligence. Is that what you're saying?
Like the higher their like awareness of 2A. Right?
Right. Yeah, sure. Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. Are you on a phone or on a computer?
I'm on a phone at home on my back deck right now, sorry.
I don't know what it is then. That's weird because you've been on a phone before. It's not like a new phone or anything. Is there did the neighbor put up a ham radio antenna or something?
Possibly. I don't know.
I just haven't heard that. That's like old radio static, right? It's like tuning in a radio type of static.
Yeah.
You don't really get that.
I think it's just a bad connection.
Maybe
It could be.
Maybe try cutting out and jumping back in. Seriously, it might just be like you got a bad node or something. Huh?
And I'm not saying like that. Oh, go ahead, G.
Well, I was going to pivot, so go ahead and finish up if you want, or keep going.
No, I'm done. Let's move on.
Clover, how's that new phone doing? You're still going to recommend it to people?
Yeah, sure. Why not? I don't know. There's a few things with it either I hadn't figured out or I don't like, I guess, at this point. But there's some autofocus issues that I haven't quite figured out yet. There was something else I was thinking about. Oh, the noise cancellation. I really don't like the way the noise cancellation works on it. So they're either going to have to update that or I'm going to have to find a way to root it or something and figure out something to do with the noise cancellation because it can cause issues if there's wind or, if I'm like doing shooting on the range when it goes to pick up like really high decibel stuff.
Too sensitive and it cuts out too much.
Well, it only does it honestly when I have an external microphone hooked up. But I'll hook up an external microphone and then like anything over a certain dB or something, it just jacks up all the audio, period. And the fix for the previous version I had when it would do that was to just turn off the noise cancellation. I haven't found an option and have dug everywhere and scoured the internet and everything else, and there's apparently no way to do it on this phone yet, at least yet. So, yeah.
What phone is it, Clover?
The Galaxy 10 Plus.
Next
I
one.
just want to do a test. Is that better or no?
No, it's pretty much the same. I mean, it's not that bad. I just was curious because if it would have been like
You
if you're-
remember?
I'm sure it was your microphone, but
You remember we were on the phone once, Ghost, and like you unplugged and plugged back in, and or whatever. It's doing the same thing. So it's like
Okay.
there's dust or dirt in the connection or something. I'm thinking.
what the fuck? I'm gonna go beat the shit out of a 16-year-old cat. I'll be right back.
Ooh, turn the camera on. Turn the camera on.
Right? I got a snake I can send over that way. That'll make
I
them happy.
still like Ghost's idea about getting the firearm companies involved, and I like G-Web's idea. Like, hey, if they see us being passionate about it, then they might jump on board. But I like the idea of being proactive and letting them know, like, we want you to do this, right? Like, I mean,
Mhm.
we would really appreciate you, Smith and Wessons, Glocks, whoever, to be vocal about this, right? Instead of just kind of staying in the closet the whole time.
And I'm going to play devil's advocate to my own statement, but the reality comes down also is sometimes a lot of the manufacturers like controversy. They like the anti-gun rhetoric because of the business side. They sell more.
I don't
But
go
I,
for
th- but I'm just saying. I think that that's happened. But I still think that if we could get the manufacturers on board, people that are just a casual gun owner that don't watch YouTube, they don't watch anything social media. If they put a press release out on Smith and Wesson and Glock, I think that would reach a heck of a lot more people than a YouTuber.
I don't. Oh, I'm gonna throw it. I don't agree. I'm in a lot of chats where those guys will say that, and I just bite my tongue because it's over the whatever 9 years I've been chatting with those guys. It seems like there's just no way to win. They hate big business or whatever. I don't think that's the case. I think you can look back with 2020 hindsight and interpret things however you want, but I suspect any business wants a flourishing community, a flourishing industry, right, or whatever a word would be, like a business environment. They anybody can interpret past as they want, but I am certain that any gun company would rather be selling to a flourishing, growing market than to a desperate, feared market or market driven on fear. What do you guys think, guys and gals? Angelina's allowed to answer also. What do you folks think?
What
I
if
mean,
they?
What does the fam think? Do you think fam? Is that what they said?
I think it's probably that each individual gun company is probably different. I mean, it would have to. I think
All
that
companies are the same. All corporations are the same. They're all the same grade. No, I think they're all.
then they definitely want to. They want an economy that's flourishing. They definitely want that. They probably do want their community flourishing because that's free advertising. If their community that involves their product is flourishing, so that's going to lead to free advertising and free word of mouth and stuff like that. So I definitely agree with that. But I see, like we were just talking about, how a lot of gun owners just pay their $30 to whoever, and they're like, "Oh, they're taking care of that for me." I've seen gun companies kind of doing the same thing, like, "Oh, we'll just pay. Here's some money. Like, you take care of it."
How often does an organization like Gun Channels or Every Second Matters? I guess those are bad examples because we're really not trying to do that. How often does an organization like XYZ state level organization go up to a Smith and Wesson, Henry, probably to Henry quite a bit because they literally make guns for this, but Smith and Wesson, Colt, Glock, even maybe Tallow or whoever, and say, we need a commemorative gun for our giveaway this year. And maybe if they got more and more of those kind of commemoratives, that would give them the inclination to go, hey, this is something people are interested in. Look at how many commemorative guns are being given out for people that are efforting in 2A. That's capitalism. Instead of asking them, purchase.
I could see that, but I don't know. I think they're also looking at the big game. Like, so how many pistols? I guess it would depend on how much interest they had in a special edition pistol and how many of those they could sell and stuff like that. Because it all still comes down to making a profit for them because they are a business, right? So they're in the business to make money, to make a profit at the end of every year. So as long as that they're making money off of it, then it would definitely be a successful thing. But if they do that for someone and they don't make any money on it, then I think they'd be a lot more hesitant. If those guns aren't selling, then they're going to be like, this isn't a thing. So that would come back down to us to actually be supporting that business and buying those products, right?
Yeah, and I would say, going back to my statement about, I don't ever want to imply that the manufacturers are actively seeking the negative gun rhetoric. I don't think they're actively seeking. I think they do want a flourishing Second Amendment community. But I also know people that own gun companies and are big wigs in gun companies that will straight up tell you that Obama was the greatest gun salesman their company has ever seen. So obviously they want a flourishing Second Amendment, but let's not be naive enough to think that on the business side of selling their products, the little scare tactics don't always help.
Again, that's 2020 hindsight, though. I mean, that's that was the biggest amount of sales in fear. Okay, great. That doesn't, unless they also said, and that's our only business strategy, or that's the only successful.
No, I've never said that anyone have a business strategy. I'm just saying that I think that the business side of them.
Let's say it's a lever action rifle manufacturer, and they didn't get a big boost, right? Because they probably didn't get a big boost when Obama threatened black rifles and handgun capacity, right? So, you know what I mean? Like, not everybody is going to be motivated by that. But let's say it was a handgun manufacturer, a semi-auto handgun manufacturer, and they got a boost in CCW sales, or they got a boost in like prepper, I guess, like people that were afraid they weren't going to be there 10 years from now or whatever. So they sold some. How many guns do you buy? What's the math on that? Like, I don't know if anyone's ever done a look at that, like into the industry or whatever it would be called. Like, when you buy in fear, what are you buying? Like, what you have available? Do you put it on the credit card? Do you buy to a certain build to, number? Is there like an average? Do most people buy 2 rifles or 3 rifles and 2 pistols? Like, you know what I mean? There's got to be somehow to figure out of fear. Let's say that it doesn't matter. Let's say that there has to be some number that people buy out of fear on average. And we can go from, any situation where there's been enough alarm that people bought out of fear, right? So we can have history. And if someone could do the math on that, if John Lott had the resources, and boom, he was here with us tonight, and he offered that numbers, would that number be different than a number in a world where that same handgun manufacturer is able to make a 9mm and a 45 and the new caliber that gets developed for the Steel Challenge, maybe some 357 steel, right? Like some new caliber gets invented where it's ceramic and it powders. There's no damage or recoil, and you just use these new ceramic barrels. And, now we have an environment where people are, sure, they're carrying, but crime's at an all-time low. And but competition shooting is way up. And now schools have like a collegiate steel match because you can shoot this new ceramic bullet inside. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, if we had those 2 scenarios and we had a magical John Lott who could determine how much, people buy out of fear, and then how much you'd buy as a developing shooting industry started to grow. And now that lever action guy who got no movement with Obama, all of a sudden there's like people shooting ceramic inside. Well, heck, if we load our cowboy guns with ceramic, we can shoot steel right up close to it and inside, and now there's a developing lever action thing, and now everybody's, the rising tide type of thing. So I suspected, again, if we had a thriving market, those capitalist companies that want to make money would rather see that. They'd invest in that future, as opposed to, like some people would suggest, they're literally just misers and short-sighted and like, profit, like I'll sell 6 guns to this month. I just don't think they're that short-sighted. And I honestly think you don't get into the gun industry unless you are motivated to build freedom. It's not a commodity that's you get into the building pots and pans, or you get into the industry of building catalytic converters or batteries for energy for electric cars, right? If you wanted a stable industry that's going to provide a commodity that's in demand, you build guns because you want to build freedom for citizens of this country.
I mean, I don't think anyone's going to argue that point. I think that, like I said, I don't think that there's any company out there saying we don't want freedom. We don't want a thriving Second Amendment community. My only statement is, you know, I think that part of the aspect we have to look at is the business side of it. Now, I tell you another thing that I think would be interesting is getting some of these handgun companies. Let's take California, for instance. When a new handgun comes out from a company, the process to get that on the roster in some of these states is mind-numbing sometimes. And it's a lot of these companies even will tell you straight up, it's not worth the hassle to get our handgun on the California roster or the New Jersey roster or whatever. What if we got the manufacturers then to fight the roster, and say, hey, let's go into California, try to get this roster thing eliminated so that every handgun we have is now available and we don't have to go through the red tape to get our handgun on the roster in California. That'd be interesting.
Hashtag remove the registries, and all manufacturers get on board and they remove the registries from every state. And then we go after them.
There you go.
Once they own that skill.
Some gun companies already have jumped on that train, like Barrett, Serbu and stuff like that. There are companies out there that have already jumped on that train that won't sell to, let's say, if civilians can't own it in their state, they're not selling to law enforcement or whatever in that state, right?
But that's an individual decision. I think Ghost is more saying, like, stand together and make a big stink about it.
Yeah, not selling to that state is a lot different than actually fighting to reverse said regulations in that state. It's also two separate things.
About to pivot. Is Angelina back?
Yeah, I'm back. Let's pivot.
Does anybody else want to follow up on anything? They've been biting their tongue. They have the solution to all of this, but you've been holding back for some reason.
No, I think we called that.
All right, we're pivoting. What would be, you can travel to wherever you need to travel to, so cost is no object, and I believe that Dano isn't in here to ruin it. Cost is no object. What and where are you eating breakfast tomorrow? So you have to be able to get there tonight. So I guess that's a physical limitation. We don't have wormholes. You're not popping out somewhere that's weird in Europe because you can't get there tomorrow night or tomorrow morning. Where are you eating breakfast tomorrow morning? Instead of going left to right, who wants to go first? I'll do it in order that you want to go.
Does it have to be a breakfast food?
Where? I said what and where? Did I say that said for breakfast? You can eat whatever the hell you want for breakfast. In this country, if you go to like some country where they tell you what you have to eat for breakfast, that's on you. I don't know of any country that's like that, but there's probably countries in Europe that tell you what you can eat for breakfast. Nobody has any idea what they want to eat for breakfast tomorrow?
I'm going to fly to Calgary, Canada, and then I'm going to order bacon, and I don't know. I'm going to find out whether I get Canadian bacon or do I get regular bacon.
You're going to get something round that looks like ham, and they're going to argue with you and be like, we gave you bacon.
You want to order that streaky bacon.
So seriously, that's what your dream breakfast is? Going to Canada and trolling them live? You're going to go on video, hopefully? Anybody else? Nobody has a breakfast they want tomorrow? Nobody eats breakfast here?
I don't have an actual breakfast like food. I mean, it really doesn't matter. I'd say what I'd like to do though is my favorite place in the world is Telluride, Colorado, and I'd love to have breakfast on top of a mountain in Colorado, watching the sun come up. That'd be pretty awesome. Eating whatever.
What is Telluride? Is that a ski place like on top of a mountain then? Like you'd literally be on top of a mountain looking down at the plains?
Yeah, Telluride's a town. It's a town in Colorado, but it's just a beautiful place. But I would love to go. And it is a ski resort. I mean, there's ski resorts in Telluride, but it's a town.
It's a town up in the mountains, though.
Yes.
Town. Okay.
Yeah.
Dead Horse, Clover, Angelina?
I'm probably going to have to go with, I've never had donuts with bacon in them, right? So I'd probably have to go to Partisan Rock and with an AK and eat bacon donuts.
All right, so we're just going to say Calumet, Colorado, even though I don't technically know where Partisan Rock really is, but yeah. So that would be that's a good answer. Clover, Angelina.
I'll say maybe Denmark.
How are you going to get from Texas to Denmark?
Said cost wasn't an option.
Yeah, but are you going to be able to get there by the morning? That's like 3 hours from now, 4 hours from now.
And he doesn't like to fly, so he sure as hell can't drive to Denmark.
But, all right, go ahead. You got your crazy Clover.
You said cost is no option. I couldn't get a private Lear jet of some sort or something to.
I don't know. So let's say yeah.
Okay.
So what's the big thing about Denmark? Why are you going to Denmark?
Oh man, like the pastries, the rolls, and that sort of stuff. Like the bear claws or the Danish.
He wants to have
rolls
a Danish in Denmark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
What do we got left, Angelina?
I'm gonna say Vegas vegan taco place.
Really? That's like a 5-hour drive or something. Well, I guess you could drive there and be there, I guess.
Yeah, but I'm really put off by the question because I don't like breakfast food. So like nothing sounds good, and I don't want to do anything.
You eat like beans and toast and a onion. I don't know what they eat in England.
I do eat that. But I don't like to eat that for breakfast. I don't really eat breakfast, so.
Well, I'm going to pull a Clover, have to get some kind of a plane because I don't think I could drive there in time. And I don't feel like driving there anyway. I'd have to have somebody fly me there. But I would wake up in Colorado Springs, just down the hill from Ghost, so I could hang out with Ghost later on in the afternoon. And Honda is someplace in Colorado also, but I don't think the place I'm going to is called Snooze. I can't remember the place. I think it's called like Ann's or Sue's or something like that, like some 3-letter name of a lady. And it's got a yellow awning. And I was washing clothes there, getting ready to go over to Dragon Man's, and typed in like either chocolate chip pancakes or bacon. I can't remember anymore. And it was one of the local places that came up on the Google search. And wow, that was literally the best breakfast I've had ever, I think.
Well, I definitely will meet you that afternoon. After I eat my breakfast, I'll drive down and we'll meet the Dragon Man for sure.
Yeah, we're shooting. So y'all, I guess, Woods, have a good time in Canada.
Say hello to the Danish for me there, Clover. We're going to go shoot the freaking flamethrower at Dragon Man.
I don't know what is in, where'd you say you're going? Denmark? What's in Denmark? At least you can do
French fries and mayonnaise.
Denmark doesn't even allow calibers larger than 9mm.
But I mean,
so you're saying that I'd be like the man in Denmark then? That's what you're saying.
I'm just saying, what other tourist attractions are there? I mean, I'm sure there's
I
some.
don't know. I think it's pretty over there.
I'm sure Denmark. I'm sure there's probably a lot of castles and different things around. I don't know that, but I'm sure there probably are. That'd be kind of cool.
Adam is saying campfire your breakfast next to a lake at daybreak. I'd be down with that. There's something about getting up next to a big ass lake where you got it to yourself, and then waking up. Ideally, you'd made coffee the night before and put it in a thermos so that you can wake up and have some coffee. But then getting up and bringing the fire back to life and getting that cast iron pan going, and then doing your breakfast of choice in there.
Yeah, there's not much. There's not much better than camp breakfast. I'm telling you. Growing up, I mean, we spent literal, days, like a whole solid week and stuff. A lot of times, this was even during school. School was going on, so I mean, you get up, eat breakfast at camp, and then you get taken to school, and you get picked up at school, and you go back to camp basically for like a week and stuff. And it's hard to beat. Hard to beat camp breakfast.
Well, I'll tell you, even before you start cooking your breakfast on the fire, most of the time when you're camping out, you have the fire going the night before. And for me, one of the greatest smells in the world is burning wood. But the morning after a fire has kind of gone out and the embers are still burning, but the fire itself is out, that's one of the greatest smells to wake up to is a campfire that's, put out.
First off, Pants is saying Denmark is also 6 hours ahead of Clover, so it's already 7 a.m. there. So you'd be getting there at some point in the afternoon and going like, hey, let me get some breakfast. So they'd be like crazy Texans. And then
okay. So we have to
John
change
is
that.
saying he'd skydive into Nevada mountains with a 50 BMG to meet his guests sitting at a table with a Mediterranean breakfast, salad style breakfast with cheeses and olives, tea and coffee and orange juice. And he's not sure if he's going to fire the BMG at targets on the way down or after breakfast. So I would say that's not mutually exclusive. You can do both, shoot as you're parachuting, then eat some breakfast, and then shoot some more, right?
He had me at 50 BMG.
So I'm down with the Mediterranean breakfast like he's talking about, a bunch of cheeses and olives and whatnot. You're going to eat that, Angelina?
Yep, down.
What is your feelings about the camp breakfast? Waking up, somebody's cooking breakfast, coffee going.
The like 2 times I've been camping, we just had like dry cereal. So I don't know what camp breakfast is. Unless it's dried cereal, then pass.
Well, I mean, there's something to be said for eating cereal out in the woods and that kind of thing too. But yeah,
Well,
we're
there's
in
milk, just
the
like
fire and the. I mean, if you're really going nuts and there's multiple people there, you're going to have a decent sized fire with. Well, like Ghost is saying, you're going to have it not just a roaring fire, but like a cooking fire, embers and coals, and more than one, probably a Dutch oven and more than one cast iron pan, and you're going to be cooking, multiple things. So you're going to have all, basically the mix of all the breakfast foods, aromas plus coffee, and if you got something bacon, plus what a lake, maybe some breeze, all the pine trees. If you're in a deciduous place, you might have the smell of like acorns and that kind of shit.
What is the gravy that they used to call back in the Wild West? I don't know, the cowboy gravy or whatever. It has a specific name that they took like some of the leftover coffee, threw it in there, and made a gravy with, all. You know what I'm talking about? It's like a, God, I can't remember the name of it. It's like a coffee-based gravy that they used to use out in the Wild West back in the 1800s. I can't remember what it's called, but that'd be interesting.
Mix all dry ingredients in a pan, stir, whatever. That is not what you're talking about. Better taking some kind of red-eye gravy made with leftover coffee.
Red-eye gravy, that's it. Yep.
So you take the dregs of the coffee pot, stirred into split toast, buttermilk biscuits. What? How to turn into red-eye gravy. Let's see how to do this. I was thinking something different. So, has anybody ever heard of red-eye gravy?
Yes, I have.
Oh yeah.
Have you eaten it?
Yes, I have. And I don't know, like, I've only had it once and I did not like it all, but I can't guarantee that it was cooked properly or if it was done the right way. Like, that's just what I was told, and I could totally taste the coffee grinds and sticking in my teeth, and it just was like, it was like eating sand mixed in with my, breakfast, right? So, like, it was not, I did not have a good experience with that, but I don't know if it was done right either.
Yeah, I've had it. I mean, I've had it available many, many, many times in my life, and I'm not a big coffee person. So I do love the smell of red eye gravy, but I wouldn't eat it if it was, yeah.
So what it seems like is you make yourself some ham for the most part, or whatever, bacon, I guess. But they're saying that originally it would have been like you make your ham, it's going to burn and scorch, and it's going to have like driplets and stuff that stick to the pan. So normally you would throw some water in there or whatever to make gravy. You're going to throw coffee in there, and then that's going to turn into a gravy with all the like giblets or what's the leavings that you leave when you pull the ham out of there. And it says it's just from the old days when you weren't going to waste anything. So I don't know. I've never heard of it, I don't think. I have heard of coffee gravy, but now I'm intrigued. Is that something you can order at a restaurant, you think?
I don't know. I've never had it before. I'm not a coffee guy, but
Be made out of ham and shit, so I guess I'm going to pass on. Sounds
It's
like
gonna
do you,
depend on
do
the
you use the
restaurant.
bacon grease also? Do you use the grease from the bacon or anything, or just the?
Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
most
Okay.
bars. You're just trying to reclaim all that stuff. It kind of cleans the pan and gives you the, you get all the whatever nutrition out of there.
Yeah.
Food.
If you could probably a little hole in the wall restaurant. I mean, if you found a little little mom and pop diner or cafe or something, they probably would. I would be willing to bet you that the little hole in the wall place here just down the road from me, I would almost guarantee you pull up in there and ask for it's not on the menu, I can tell you that, but I can almost promise you if you wanted some, they'd make it.
All right. Well, so anywhere else to take this one? Can't chat all night. So we do have a lot of people participating and everybody's chatting, but like I said, don't need to keep everybody up all night. Anybody got a gun shop they've been to recently?
Yeah, I went to one on Saturday, as a matter of fact.
What's so good about this gun shop you went to on Saturday?
It's called Fort Thompson's. It's down in North Little Rock, and it's a really big place, and it's kind of like I don't know, like if you would call a mom, pa, Bass Pro type thing, where they had a literal wall of handguns behind the counter. And I'm saying hundreds of handguns, hundreds of rifles, ARs, bolt action, anything you want. They had all the accessories for ARs. It was a huge shop, but they also sold, hunting stuff and hiking stuff and clothing and all that. So it's like a small privately owned like Bass Pro type thing, but it was really cool. And it was my first time to go there because my daughter had gotten me a gift card there for my birthday. So I went down there and all of that. But I liked it a lot because you go in there, the staff was very courteous. They had like 4 people behind just a gun counter, and they were all extremely knowledgeable. You could handle any gun you wanted to, and they were not there trying to sell you whatever. They were saying, what are you looking for? And I was listening to their conversations with other people, and they were like, hey, I want to see that gun. Yeah, great. Have you ever shot one of these before? No. Okay. They were trying to find out why they were looking for this gun, and there was a guy that they actually said, well, I'm not so sure what you're looking for would fit it, and they kind of steered towards another gun that was actually cheaper. But I think that it was really cool to see the interaction between the staff, and it's called Fort Thompson's. If you're ever in the Little Rock area, you got to go check it out. It was really, really fascinating.
Pretty cool. When I was in Little Rock, it was it was evening when I left your area. So it was an hour from Little Rock. It seemed like some amount of time. And by the time I got there, it was pretty late evening. So nothing like gun shops were open. And I had to start boogieing. So I do want to go back and spend more time. Seemed like a neat town.
Yeah, anytime. Let me know, and you're more than welcome to stay with us.
A lot of conversation going on out there, so I figured I would throw a little tactical pop quiz out there at everybody. So this will be open to people on both the gun channel side. Gun Channels is a community that was built 6 years ago. People go around acting like I built it. There was an active community. There still is an active community on the YouTube chat, right? And the various people that created live conversations on YouTube. There was a community of people that would join into those, and certain people were there in the early evenings, and other people were there in the late nights, and we had live conversations hosted by peoples on their channels pretty much every night, and that went on for, Dead Horse was around back then. I don't know if the rest of you were around back then. Years, right? A couple of years. So at some point, the anonymous nature of a platform like YouTube and the petty nature of some individuals created disruption, right, in the conversation and what the potential we had. So a bunch of people were frustrated and were leaving the conversation. They were leaving the conversation, at least on YouTube, because of the abuse and the just garbage and the just lack of alternative, right? So I don't know if they left the conversation completely. Perhaps they found a better niche or something on Facebook or Instagram, right, or some other platform I'm not thinking of. right? But at least they left the YouTube conversation. So in effect, their voices were removed from our conversations, and that was frustrating because Every Second Matters, which is now 6 years later, was built from people who were just regular people having conversations on enough of a regular basis to, start establishing some stuff. And not just I, but others were interested in creating a place where we could foster that conversation, right? So that was Gun Channels, and it's now 6 years old. And it was not as though there was some guideline or some instructions that we followed, and we, followed a recipe and put in the right amount of powders and fluids and baked it, and it popped out. And here's Gun Channels, and it was perfect. And we profited off of it, and it's been like this super effective way for the whole community to get together. And we don't have an NFA anymore, but at least we're trying something, right? And over the years, it's evolved, and it's had its changes, and it's people that were in it, and the people that appreciated it and supported it. And there's been people that supported it since day one, financially and in every other way. And then there's people that come and go, and some of the people that come and hang out, stay forever, and become part of the collective conversation, and others leave and decide that what we're doing here is a waste of time or wrong, and they do it better, they do it different, and they succeed, right? And they become large channels. Others succeed in other ways, or maybe they take seeds of what they saw here and start something else that's something totally different than guns, and hopefully they're out there still ambassadors to our community, right? Others leave and just sit around doing nothing. Who knows what all happens, right? But basically, it's something that exists, and we appreciate the people that watch on that side. So, of course, the people that are watching on the Gun Channel side are going to be involved in this quiz. There's also a place where we record this because the tool's available to us, and I happen to have a large soapbox over there. I suspect no one at that platform knows anybody's name, gives a shit about most of us. They certainly hate our property, and I doubt they respect anything about the rights that we appreciate. But the people that are over there are welcome to participate in this also. So without any further ado, the question will be, what was the intro music to the show today? Is anybody gonna know? Does anybody in here know? Any answers? I've been paying attention to the countdown clock over here.
Nothing on the YouTube side.
John is saying the TJ Hooker TV show. No.
No.
Even though Heather Locklear is in the TJ Hooker TV show, and she was in Swamp Thing, and we talked about Swamp Thing on Matt's show yesterday. No, Shaft would definitely get copyrighted. You can't even hardly play any part of Shaft without getting copyrighted.
You had me at Heather Locklear. I kind of lost track when you said her name.
It is a cop show. It's a cop show from...
Was it a cop show or a detective show?
Special Police Force. Unless somebody can come up with it, John's going to win.
Stein says Simon.
Look at this mastery of sliders and shit. I don't even have one of your fancy mixing boards. I run around like some kind of radio DJ. John got it. SWAT. Oh, Pink also had it. Who got it first?
Pink had it over there. I think John or Pink.
John said Special Police Force way the hell before before Pink said SWAT, though, because he said it before you said still looks good, right? Simon and Simon immediately starts singing, I think, because I've tried to use it.
I was way off. I was thinking Rockford Files.
I'm on Team Pink. Just throwing that out there.
Okay.
I'm always on Team Pink, but
I feel like that's sexist, but it is a late night show, so anyway, so John wins, so that means we're gonna screen share the John Winnan over here. Boom. Where you write Special Police Force. And then you remember that means SWAT in English. And then this is the panels that he's going to choose from. So let's see. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of us in here. How are we going to figure out which panel he's going to choose from? Tell you what, since John drove, well, got his ass to a train and then trained his ass up to the Bannerman Castle, he can choose from any of these panels because nobody else that I know of in the planet got his ass all the way up to Bannerman Castle to go hang out with me at Bannerman Castle. So let me know. Am I screen sharing? John,
Yeah.
which patch do you want? Anything you want? Boom. I guess I'll give him a link. Give him a link to the thing so he can take a closer look. And you know that John's probably sitting in traffic trying to just park just so he can go home, right? 3 in the morning or whatever time this is. 4 in the morning.
I mean, if I had to pick for John, which should be what would happen, I would pick that stripper clip. Just saying.
It's like,
What do you want?
There's at least 2 on here. All of them? Is that an option? Look at that. That's the way a New Yorker is going to take that. No, it's not an option. What the hell would he do? How much money do you think you'd get if I sent him all 6 of these panels? Is this worth anything?
I don't even know if you can choose from panel 6. Is that even legal?
That's the stripper clip right there that I had in mind. Whoa, what's that? What's that lower one? Is that a primer projects?
I don't know. Do you know this one? I can't enhance, can I?
I wanted that one. I like that.
No, see, Instagram is stupid. It doesn't let you like zoom really. Not on the computer. It will on the other one. I don't know. I don't know what that is. I think somebody gave me that, or I might have traded Marco. Marco and Pink let me go through their doubles at SHOT Show. And I think I might have got it like that. Otherwise, I think it might have been somebody sent me it in the mail. And when you send me like 4 of them, I might not remember all of them kind of thing.
Right.
So I know I don't remember reaching out and grabbing it like SHOT Show or something.
That green Arizona is pretty cool too. I've never seen that before.
These are from Patch Batch I did last year. So did he say what he wants yet? All right, so stripper clip is the problem with listening to Angelina is there is a stripper clip here that's green in PVC, and then there's also a stripper clip here that is black and white and sewn, so that's old. That was one when I didn't have them made yet, and I was just sewing them, I think. Pretty sure. And then, wasn't there a third one in here? No, I guess there's just those 2. So do you want the one that's handmade sewn, or do you want one of the last, maybe the last of the PVC ones?
Was that a Gizzard Gary patch?
You mean on the panel with all the gun channels people?
Oh, it was.
So yeah, he decided he didn't want any of your all 2A patch one. He didn't want a Gun Gals one. He didn't want a Patriot one. He didn't want
It's that little
one.
yellow G at the top. That yellow G.
Also, this knife isn't on here. This total scam because Matt's is gone. Somebody took that one the other day, and I took this knife off of here as soon as I realized it was on here. I don't even know how the hell I stuck it on there. I must have stuck it on there like to hold on to it for a minute or something because I did not mean to put it on the panel. Which one were you talking about?
That little yellow G at the top. That's pretty cool. Is that PVC or sewn?
No, I was playing around trying to not waste material. So I figured out how to make actually I was trying to make a big G and then it came out little because I don't know what I'm doing. And then I was like, oh, well, snap, that's my own little Ranger eye. So whenever I have like, if I'm sewing mats or something, there'll be like a little G over here, like a room for a little G. I'll stick it in there, sew it.
Yeah, I was wondering the other evening while that knife was on there. I'm like, he bugged me like forever for that knife. What's it doing on the giveaway panel? That's not right.
No, it was like I said, that was a mistake. I was playing with it, and I think I stuck it there so it wouldn't get lost or something, and then I don't know. Or it's a bait and switch. I'll just be like, oh, that's already taken. That's already
right. But I noticed you had the polka dot pin too. That's still there, right?
Oh, I bought a couple of those intentionally to have
Cool.
them on the giveaway panel. Yeah. I have
Right.
mine, and then I have one here.
Yeah.
That's from Cheryl. So he said, surprise me, so I can pretty much send him whatever I want. He's just going to get whatever patch I got, like 100 of. Sucker. But anyway, that's tactical quiz. Try to do that whenever I can remember to do it, and happy to do it. Say thanks to the people that show up and watch the show live. Clover brought up a good point earlier today that I keep forgetting about the people that watch this thing after that aren't here live. And it isn't just a live show. So yeah, I do appreciate the people that come in and watch this whenever. But like I was saying, I think when I started the show, no idea that you're out there unless you let us know. I don't put it on iTunes anymore because I just don't have the time, right? I'm trying to make ends meet, as they say. And that's one of the things that gets kicked to the curb. If you're missing it and you're having to do some kind of effort to find the show, first off, thank you for taking that effort, and let us know so that I can know where to prioritize distribution and shit like that. So with all that, yeah, if you're watching the show in the future, welcome to the past, and then leave some comments or whatever so we know you're out there. And then go check out this thing called Intentionally Left Blank. When is that going to happen again?
Oh, that's going to happen again next week. And
Monday at 9 p.m.?
Monday at 10 p.m. Eastern.
And what about it?
The patches came in. So now we got these super awesome, all glowy patches. And I don't know how I'm going to dispense them. But I think it's going to be like you can only win them in some way.
Are you or are you not taking a road trip across the country?
I am taking a road trip halfway across the country to the Midwest.
I believe it would be interesting to patch cache them. So have you ever heard of geocaching, where you put a little trinket or a little box or something somewhere and you leave people some clues and then give them a destination so they can find it with orienteering, the map and compass or whatever. Right on, Dead Horse. Thanks for jumping in. If we're still going, we're here. Otherwise, we'll talk you off here. But instead of just I wouldn't put it into a geocaching box. They kind of get mad when you play around with that too much. But just consider sticking those patches someplace here and there. Go to a place for breakfast, and what's that one place that has all the stuff on the walls? Like pretty much every restaurant, it's like a franchise. Golden Griddle or something.
Yeah.
Like find like some place and where you can stash it, and then take a picture of you stashing it, or give them some kind of hint, and then kind of, what's that guy? Johnny Appleseed, except you could be Angelina Patchy Seed. Whatever it would be.
Well, I mean, funny you say that, because like 2 road trips ago, I was putting like owl and anchor stickers all over gas stations and stuff. And then the next road trip, when I went to New York last year, so we go inside, that like truck stop, Russell's, somewhere like between Texas and New Mexico, like on the border. We go inside, look at the little museum, come out, and I'm like, hey, I think that's the sticker. And I go over there, and it was still up there a year later on the gas pump. And I took a picture, and I just saw it in my like Facebook memories like 2 days ago.
Except instead of saying owl and anchor, it now says bowel and ass canker or something.
Actually, because of our high quality stickers, it looked great. It was like peeled up a little bit, like somebody tried to like take it off, but it looked pretty good. So I'm going to make
a cool idea.
It's somebody's job to go out there and take that off, but they were like, out of frustration, they had to go back to their boss and be like, the sticker's just made too damn well. It won't come off, and it's because of its UV protection. I just can't remove it. It's on there, and the guy got fired.
Yeah, it's just way too high quality for me to remove it. So I'm going to make a new sticker, and I'm going to put it up. I actually put one up by Fort Leonard Wood, and then I posted on Instagram, like, whoever finds this at the come and go, send me a picture and I'll send you a prize. And some guy like ran out and found it, and I sent him a prize. So I'll probably do that again.
What if you did something like when you're in the Midwest somewhere, you stop by some random gun shop and left a patch or a sticker in the gun shop, and you did the geocaching, you gave hints, and that's going to send traffic to a little small gun shop somewhere in the Midwest.
Oh, that's a good idea.
That's awesome.
Maybe I should bring like a bunch of patches for that.
Here's an idea. You got the patch and you got the Velcro backing. You go in there randomly, and you peel back one, and you put something in there. You put it all back together, shuffle that into the mix, and it's like the Willy Wonka thing.
Like a golden ticket?
Right. And then you give 3 of them to
Ooh.
each shop. And you don't tell the shop because you don't want them looking in there necessarily because they're cheaters. But then you could just say, hey, here's like what Ghost is saying. That's a great idea. Like, hey, there's a shop in so and so. Like, there's a shop in Kansas. Go ask if they got the sticker. And a bunch of people go into their gun shops and ask if they got this sticker. And then if nobody finds it, you go, it's a shop, in eastern Kansas or something. And then you wait a week or whatever, nobody finds it. It's a shop in this city. You just give them more and more clues. But ideally, people are then jumping into their shops and saying, hey, you got that Allen Anchor sticker?
Maybe I should do that. I am going to Illinois, so maybe I'll pick a gun store somewhere out there, and then I can monitor it for a week.
All right, well, we just explained a bunch of ways for you to run your business. You're welcome.
Yeah,
Clover Tech, you've got shows that you do. What's the next one?
Next one is After Hours, Nerd Talk, Thursday night. And then Friday is Aaron Paulette on the podcast.
What's Nerd Chat's topic?
Undetermined still.
Did I cut you off, Angelina, when you were talking about the patch or whatever? Or were you still going to say something about the show? Intentionally left blank. I think you were just talking about the patch, and then I started asking about the trip.
I don't know. Just watch Intentionally Left Blank, and we're gonna have some cool stuff. And yeah, that's it. YouTube's.
Going back to Clover, are you doing anything with your 2A patches?
Currently, no, not anything special or out of the norm just yet. Anyway, they are up in the store, and I have already sent out to the patrons that get the perpetual patch perk. It's kind of hard to say real quick. I've already sent those out, and yeah, that's pretty much it. But yeah, I mean, I've got to work on some fun things to do with those. Not exactly sure what I'm going to do just yet.
Oh, I'm muted. We do need to have some sort of I think we should have some sort of a chat about strategies with those things, because most everybody except Florida Carry has them now, and we'd see that. Did you see that Uta's putting them in a store?
Yeah. I do have now one thing that I did set aside. I went to the local gun shop Saturday. I got about halfway there and realized I'd left them at the house. But I've got some of those and then some of my Ranger eyes as well. And if you recall, back maybe even before we even did the patch batch, we were talking about doing that, about taking some of my patches and leaving them, with the gun shop. And then maybe cutting them a discount above what I normally sell them for, and then they can keep the difference and whatever. Just kind of maybe spark a conversation, right? If nothing else, and I mean that helps, because if you can get, we talk about this creator space and everything a lot, and one thing I would be curious to know from people is if you're out there and you're a channel and you're creating stuff, how many people in your local community realize that or know that or follow you, right? Because if that's the case, then that certainly could make communication when we're talking about these local efforts, right, with elections or whatever, certainly could make communication a whole lot easier, and facilitating meetups to discuss calls to action and campaigns and other things too amongst like-minded people in the area. So
Resources, yeah,
sure, but yeah, my intention, I wasn't even thinking about that when you asked what I was doing with them, but that is one thing I plan on doing. I'll probably do it this weekend. I usually go up there every weekend, so I'll probably take them and drop them off in there this weekend and see what happens. But you know, I too, like I said, have had them in my store. I've even put some on the eBay's, and I don't know. I mean, I've got kind of an interesting design that you don't really have to give two craps about YouTube or a creator or anything like that. People see it and it's like, oh, that's a neat patch to put on the wall or whatever. Um, but yeah, I've sold a few, and I mean that's good because every little bit helps.
Ghost, how are you dealing with the fact that Clover got a cool shotgun patch and you got your logo?
Hashtag FUD life's not real. I'm just kidding. No. You know, it's devastating to my ego that he got a special, you know, one-off patch that no one will ever be able to have again except for these. So, you know, my boring logo of a patch is not worth near what his is. That's a little depressing.
I also didn't, I was going to not bring it up, but since we're talking about it, I did get contacted by Shotgun's lawyers, and I did get a cease and desist. It looks too much like a shotgun.
Well, that's just gonna make them that much more valuable. So, damn it.
Imagine that. Looks too much like a shotgun. I've had an Instagram. Was it an Instagram? Or if it was Instagram or Facebook, but it was one of the two the other day that somebody was like, "Oh man, I got my patch today, man. I really love this rifle." And I'm like, you mean shotgun?"
Oh, and then it turns out I thought I had a whole bunch of extra ghost ones, right? And then it turns out I just forgot to put ghost ones in everybody's. So I was doing, I guess, like a routine, like a kind of a. The first I had to put Clover's in there because it's the longest, and if you can't put it in last, you need the empty envelope for it to fit in there. And then I put square ones in, this and that, and I was going through, and I must have changed the routine up and missed a couple. So.
Well, the sad thing is no one's complained that they're missing mine, so that sucks.
Oh no, that's how I found out.
I'm just joking.
Like I got all the good ones, but then give me that other one.
Well, it's probably good that you hung on to a few extras then and all, right?
Well, I was
Like
telling
that.
those that like there's always slop, right? Angelina's with this when you do like a run of anything.
Oh yeah, there's always been on mine too. Yeah,
It's like 3%. Sometimes it can be the bad way. Like sometimes it's 3% or something, 5% depending on the company, I guess. And if it's the wrong way, that sucks because then you might get 95 instead of 100, and then you got to figure things out. But it's playing the game. But this time, there was 350, so the slop is bigger, and it was different. I don't have any gear reports, none. Like there was exactly enough gear reports. Now, I might have doubled them up accidentally or something, potentially, but whatever. But I was telling Ghost like, oh man, all the slops or whatever came out that I got a whole bunch of extras of yours. But then I've got like 3 people that were like, hey, I didn't get a Ghost. But like I said, I kind of changed my routine up. I took some pictures as I was filling the envelopes or whatever, but it actually takes a while to do 260.
I tell you, one of the cool things that I'm doing with my local gun shop with some of my patches is we've worked out a deal that on Facebook and stuff, not on YouTube, but on Facebook, I want to start doing a spotlighted gun of the month for the gun shop and do a little 3-minute video saying, hey, this is the gun that they're spotlighting. This is a good deal that you're going to get if you bet. They have 3 left and all that, and I've given them patches to go along with. Let's say they have 4 of them in stock, and I'll give them 4 patches for those guns. Anyone that goes in and buys those guns at that gun shop during the month will get a patch of mine. So that's something kind of cool we're doing.
Yeah, that's pretty neat. I like that.
Is Dead Horse still out? So Woods just dropped out. He doesn't get to tell us what he's got in mind. So Ghost, what's next? What's your next adventure?
Released tomorrow morning is going to be the new Armed Citizen podcast, and this is going to be with Mitch Mustaine. That some people that follow college football might remember Mitch. He was a quarterback, All-American quarterback. He was at Arkansas, at USC, and there's a documentary on him that was on either Netflix or Amazon Prime, and I saw it, and he's being interviewed in this documentary, and there's a bunch of guns on his back wall, and I contacted him and said, "Oh my God, you're a gun guy." And we spent about 2 hours on the phone, and the excerpts of the interview are coming out tomorrow in Armed Citizen, so go check that out. He's a really interesting guy, really cool perspective, lived in California for a while. He's the one, Angelina, that told me about Cal guns and stuff like that, so it's really cool. Listen. And I killed the chat.
Is Angelina still here?
Yeah. Why?
You want to pick a patch for John?
Yeah, the green and black stripper clip.
Oh, okay.
I really feel like I want John to have that one.
Boom. Okay. So I didn't have to screen share after all. And that might be the last one. Is it the last one?
First stripper clip.
She keeps coming out of someplace dirtier and dirtier. I don't even know where she's going now. She's definitely an explorer.
There's a joke there somewhere, but I'm just going to ignore it.
She's like super dusty. Looks like she's been like in Australia or something. Slap her and dust her roll up.
Maybe she's a clean freak. She's like dusting the house for you.
No, I think she's just discovering places to find, like the little places she can go behind this box or whatever, or like underneath of this cabinet. The one of them came out of one of my toolboxes. The fuzzy one came out of a toolbox. Was sweeping and jumped out of a freaking toolbox. Like, how the hell did you even decide to jump in there? All right, well, so I guess that's the show. So thanks everybody for joining the live part, and for the panel for staying up late and being part of the conversation. We'll be back tomorrow. Let's see, tomorrow's Wednesday, so is tomorrow Wednesday? Yeah, so it'll be Rick doing his shooting for, what's it called? Shooting with disabilities.
I think so, yes.
Matt will be doing his show. I'm trying to get a show together for tomorrow, and then we'll be back for this one.